Time's up. Let's do this.
We're in for a wild night.
Welcome everybody to episode 154 of Born to be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun, hanging out with friends, talking about the Wild format of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the Wild community. I'm your host as always, Nate Wolf. It is great to be back on a beautiful Friday evening here, joining you from Orange County, California. Joined tonight by two of my favorite people. We are minus one sheep who is in the middle of a move, but I have our very own SchmoopieDaddy back with us. Welcome back. How are you tonight?
I'd like to remind everybody who's present that we also have the goat back, Nate Wolf.
Oh,
I promise there will be no licking this week unless there are lives in danger. So thank you for having me back.
So I got the show to edit last week and I just wanted to, I was looking for like the end of the show to figure out where to cut it off. Cause like I'll do manually start and manually like cut the end in the beginning. And then I'll use like a plugin to help with the silence detection. And I clicked on just the right part. Like I hadn't listened to any of the show and I click play and I hear SchmoopieDaddy, when is it appropriate to lick a goat? And I was like, excuse me, what? I leave you guys alone for 5 minutes and you devolved into goat licking? Like, what is going on here? Like,
listen, if we learned anything from last show, it's all about context, right? And if a life is at stake, there are goats to be licked, and that's I'm not going to tell people never do that if there aren't lives at stake.
Oh my gosh. I think there was a movie, right, called Men Who Lick Goats or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I think there was.
They don't.
My goodness.
I think they stare.
I was
at
like,
goats. I don't think they lick at them.
oh, is it stare at goats? Well, there you go.
Men who look at stare at goats.
So it was like I caught you guys red-handed, and I was like, what? I like what did I walk into? Oh my goodness.
Now I have to go back and listen to everything.
Oh my goodness. Hydralisk, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm also boiling, as Blue Train in chat has pointed out. In Vancouver's ridiculously hot right now. For the only reason it feels hot is because it's been rainy and horrible for so long, and then suddenly it's like insanely hot, even though it's not. It's like 80 or something like that. That's in American. Canadian, it's like 25 degrees outside. It's actually not that bad, but it just feels that way because it's been so like miserable for so long. But I'm super glad to be here. I'm super glad to turn my air conditioning on after the show, so you don't have to listen to it the whole time. And yeah, it's Friday night, so I'm stoked.
I have one of these like silent fans like right behind me because it's kind of hot here too. Hopefully it doesn't interfere, but the microphone only picks up like in such a small radius right in front of it that it shouldn't. Yeah. But
gotta get that thing.
Anyways, well, it's been a week.
Hey, SchmoopieDaddy, how about you tell us about our show format?
I was going to ask, can I do the thing?
You could do the thing.
I can do the thing. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. Let me briefly explain how this show works. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/BornToBeWildHS. And the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. However you're watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis, thank you. Yes, you.
Hey, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, especially those of you who are here watching live on Twitch. We really appreciate you spending your Friday evening hanging out with us when you could be doing anything else. So really appreciate it. If real quickly, some housekeeping matters, wanted to say a big thank you to Shakunin, the executive producer of our show, and to our patrons, Armorn and others. We really appreciate your support. If you're interested in supporting the show at all, we have got a few ways that you can do it. If you want to like, comment, subscribe to our stuff on YouTube, leave a review on one of the podcast apps, or we do have a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. If you're interested in supporting the show, it helps pay for the website and stuff like that. If you're somebody who's on Twitch a lot, we do have some emotes that you can unlock for free just by following, and others that you can get by subscribing to the channel, which is also free if you use your Amazon Prime. Also, there's, I think, 3 free packs right now that you can get with your Amazon Prime. So don't forget that. Yeah. If you log into the Amazon Prime reward thing. There's 3 standard packs that you can get right now.
I keep forgetting to do that.
I got nothing good in my packs, but hey, free packs are free packs. So I think I got a nerfed card, so I got a little bit of extra dust, I guess. But anyways, we also have some merch. SchmoopieDaddy's wearing the shirt right now. The swordfish shirt is pretty sweet. So
I do.
yeah, we have some merch up. There's a link on our website. So if you go to our website, it's borntobewildhs.com. There's links to all of our stuff. There's links to the show notes, links to all of the YouTube content. If you're interested in learning more about the stories behind the cards, we've got a whole separate lore section. And if you're interested in our listener series and want to watch any of the casted matches, those are all up on our website as well. So check that out. Again, borntobewildhs.com. Okay, that's it. So I wanted to talk a little bit. We usually start the show talking about our week. I wish that I had something brilliant to say, but the week was very busy. I had to work late on Tuesday night. I was at conference all day Thursday, and then I got sick. And so I blame the people at the conference. I don't know. It's okay. Like I tested negative for COVID, but it's just like such a sore throat. So I may lean on you guys a little bit if my voice starts getting dry and scratchy, but I've been like avoiding WoW like the plague because it's been Druidstone, and I played so much of it early on. And then I saw people I saw the Swagwar post that was like, hey, look at my Jungle Giants Druid, and all you had to do is put these 4 cards in it, which was right. It was Twig, Sphere, and the 2 instrument techs, and like I've got a positive win rate with it. I was like, oh my god, and not that there's anything wrong with Swagwar. I love Swagwar. He's hilarious. But it's like, it's just degenerate. And then I was looking at people hitting Legend and like Corb stuff, and it was just 50% plus Druid on ladder. And I was like, I'm not touching it. So I've been playing a lot of Snap and some other stuff. I'm at rank 95. I'm really close to Infinite. So I'm going to try to do that over the weekend. But yeah, that's about it for me. Unfortunately, I'm kind of sick. Sorry I missed last week's show. My kid brother was getting married, and I had to attend.
I mean, that's a pretty good excuse. You know?
It was good. It was good. And then yeah, so I always miss doing the show, but happy that it could carry on without me. So I know priorities. Sigh. Order low. I should have gone to the wedding and then come back and done the show. The funny thing is I got home because it was so early in the day. I got home just in time to watch the listener series live, and it was like, oh, cool. So I got to watch that, and that was neat. It's a really great match. It's up on YouTube if you guys haven't seen it and want to see it. Anyways, I'm happy to be back.
Fun series.
Hopefully feeling a little bit better soon. I hate missing work. I've been at this place now for like 6 months, and this is the first time I called out, and I told my boss, I'm like, I'll pick up my laptop if you want to meet me outside and give me the laptop. And she's like, just rest and feel better. But like, I hate doing that. I feel so,
I know the feeling, but you know what? It's so much of a bigger deal to you than it is to them.
I know. And after COVID too, like it doesn't matter what it is. Like if you're under the weather, like nobody wants you in the office. Like just stay home. Yeah. We don't want you to come in. So hopefully everything will be fine by Monday, and I guess we'll see. Anyways, SchmoopieDaddy, how's your week been? What have you been up to?
My week has been pretty tame as far as like Hearthstone goes. I reached a point last weekend. I was just like, I don't want to play Wild because like everything I try just loses to Druid.
I was gonna say, have you been dumpster diving?
And so, well, I started the expansion dumpster diving. I started the expansion at Bronze 5 and kind of like worked my way up playing like fun stuff or whatever I wanted to play. And then at a certain point I reached Diamond 5 through Legend. And I was either playing S tier Druid decks or just like people who were willing to BM even Druid. So like I was playing like kind of goofy stuff like even Druid or Casino Mage, or I would try the odd meta deck, just kind of to stay sharp for THL, which didn't really help. It got rolled by Marty. So I've just sort of been like goofing around, and like I feel like my Hearthstone week hasn't started until we got our nerfs and our buffs, and so yesterday kind of like gave me new life. I've got a 24, 25 deck rotation that I'm sort of going around now. I'm giving each deck two games.
Wow.
And then I'm going to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. I'm going to try and climb to 11x like that, as I do occasionally. We'll see how it goes. If I don't make it on Sunday, oh well. I'll just dumpster down to Bronze 5, and I'll start with 10x, and I'll try to hit Legend with 10x.
Nice. You ever heard that? You ever heard that YouTube video, like the boots and cats and bouncing pizza?
Yeah.
That's what every time I hear nerfs and buffs and nerfs and buffs, and then
nerfs and buffs and nerfs and buffs and nerfs and buffs and nerfs and buffs
and bouncing pizza. Yeah, it's.
I have not heard whatever this phenomenon is.
Oh, it's. We'll do it at the outro. We'll do it at the outro.
We can get into it a little bit more later, but it's felt to me like there's more room to breathe and more room to play a variety of things. Whereas before the nerfs, like, okay, if you were enjoying the degenerate decks, like, great, good for you. I can only take so many flavors of Druid before my I start drooling. I drool a lot, so.
I mean, that's what I took it to Legend, just because it felt degenerate, and I did it on the iPad because it was like you only had to pay half attention. It was really kind of gross. I'm happy that it is dying. I have a golden twig that I'll probably keep just for the sake of keeping it, but I don't know. I
think it's still a useful card. I would keep it. I think it's still a useful card, and it's still going to have its applications. Like its pattern of play basically hasn't changed in some decks, like Tony Druid. But Tony Druid sucks. So like it's fine. It's okay for now. But no, like listen,
it'll have its uses.
We can go into more depth, but like it feels like I got a second expansion release day, and I really enjoy these large balance patches because the large balance patches are almost like
it's better than when the meta is all one deck, like fresh. That's terrible. Yeah, I'd rather see new stuff. I mean, that's
the new cards are still fresh, and like the way that the meta kind of shaped out, it was almost like Seedlock, but it was faster than Seedlock. Like people figured out that Druid was good faster than they figured out that Seedlock was good. And there's an argument to make in the statistics that Druid Stone, to start this expansion, was as dominant as Seedlock ever was.
We
just had it for a shorter period of time, so we're less like traumatized by it.
Yeah.
So like, I did a couple funny things in Classic. I hit Legend and Standard. I ran out of things to do. I was just like, well, I mean, do I do solo adventures? No. I probably still need to be on some kind of ladder because I want to hit 400 on the battle pass. I can't just sort of meander around in no experience land. So I kept
Arena.
I heard Ridiculous Hat is. I heard that Ridiculous Hat is the new president of Hearthstone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we announced that last week.
Control.
That's so
cool. Power. Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm very happy for him. It's got to be a dream come true though, to work as part of the team. Seems pretty awesome. So, although I feel bad because he's got a podcast addiction and he had to quit cold turkey, like all podcasts. So
does he have to quit? Like, could he make a podcast about something completely different, or is he just not allowed to be content creator? Like, could he do, like, Nate, you're into true crime, that sort of stuff. Could he just like do a true crime podcast, or is he not allowed to do that either?
It depends. It depends on really what they told him he could and couldn't do. If they let him do it, it would probably have to you just disclose that, like, well, either you recorded under a pseudonym, right? Like,
maybe the name,
or you say, like, you still probably have to say that, the views that are expressed here are my personal views and do not reflect the views of my company. But even then, or the company I work for, but even then, it's like slippery, because if you said something that they didn't like, I mean, how many times have you seen a newscaster that, like, oh yeah, he doesn't work here anymore?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, but they let people come on. They let people come on as guests sometimes, right? So
with approval, right?
Well, you got to go.
Yeah.
There's a process, and that makes sense because if you're representing the brand, you have to know what the guidelines are. So, and I remember talking to Nick, Deck Tech Weiss, when he first started, and he's like, "Yeah, I got to go through all the stuff before I can come on the show." Like, there's like I don't want to call it a training, and I really don't know what I'm talking about, but like I'm sure that they kind of brief you on how it goes, or maybe you need to be there longer before they want you, you know. But anyways, I think Hat knows more about Hearthstone than probably anyone else. Anyway, so he'd probably be great at it. Anyway, the point I want to make was congrats to Hat. I told him in private, but I was very excited for him. I just thought I'd throw that out there real quick. But anyways. Before I get too far down a rabbit hole, Hydralisk, how was your week?
It was good. It wasn't overly interesting other than my frustrations that I had with the game that apparently were my own fault. I don't know. I was trying to... So, you know, it's the new rewards track, so I'm doing all my dailies everywhere. And I get these quests on... You know, sometimes when your quests, like, perfectly line up, it's like, play 3 games with these classes, and sometimes you get like 2 quests, and they'll both say the same class, and you line that up, and you're like, perfect, I can kill like 2 birds with 1 stone here. And so I'm like, Death Knight, I got Death Knight, I'm going to play Death Knight, I'm on Asia, and I'm going to play some games. So I go to play in standard, and I'm playing just like an unholy Death Knight, and I can't get a game. And like, it just, every single time it says, you cannot connect, wait a few minutes, try again, something along those lines. And I'm like, what is going on? And the day before, I was playing on Asia, and I kept getting disconnected. You know, in your game, you'll get disconnected, and then you're joined again, and you're roping, and you try to make your turn, and you get disconnected. It was like as if you're going through a tunnel on a train playing on your phone. I was getting that on my PC. And so... Weird. Because of that experience, the next day I automatically blame, okay, there's something wrong with Asia. Like, what is going on? Bad games yesterday. Today I can't get a game. Next day I can't get a game. And I just can't figure it out. And I posted this on Twitter, and I tagged our good friend Deck Tech. And even he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, no one else is complaining. And Slizzle, he commented saying like, yo, I'm good. Like, I'm playing, and what is wrong? And then I decide to like investigate a little, and I play a different deck. Suddenly it works. And I'm like, what the heck? Why can't I play Death Knight? I don't understand. And so I updated my post responding to Deck Tech, and I said, oh, for some reason it's only when I play those pre-built Death Knight decks that you guys like gave us when you get the Path of Arthas set. Because I just unlocked that because I was so far behind on Asia. Right. I hadn't been playing for a while. I just got the 2,000 gold to buy that. And he's like, oh. I don't know if you remember, but the golden cards were bugged. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, yeah, you have to delete those decks and make new ones. Like, yeah, man. You can't play those pre-built ones. It won't give you games. And I'm like, I think I sort of remember that being a thing.
It's a bummer because I don't have 500 wins yet, and so all of my golden Death Knight cards are, well, at least the golden core ones are golden basic ones are not golden anymore. Oh, no. It's very disappointing.
So I don't know. So it turned out that it was just that like old bug that happened like a while back, and I completely, you would think it would have been maybe like fixed, or there was something that they could have done, because if I had the ability, knowing somebody on the dev team and asking them, right? Like, what if you are not in the Twitter community, right? Like, you have no idea, and suddenly like you can't play the game anymore, and you have no idea. Like, I was just stoked that I was like, hey, why does game not work? And the dev answers me and tells me exactly why.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool when they do those. We have access, yeah.
That's pretty cool. He answered me and told me what I was doing wrong, and then I fixed the thing, and it was all good. But yeah, I've basically just been keeping up with the rewards track as much as I can. I missed a day or two of quests because of my silliness on Asia there. But I was basically only doing that because I went to go play ladder. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can rank up on the legend ladder in Wild, and I could get like close. 11x would be cool. And I lost like one game and lost 150 ranks. I'm like, ah. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
It's kind of brutal when you. Yeah, I don't know. It depends. If I can hit my infinite and snap, then I'll cruise on over to Wild and see how far I can push. But I'm afraid because we get these deck lists from SchmoopieDaddy, and I'm like, is it good or is it bait? He's like, could be either.
Yeah, right.
No, I state my sources 90% of the time.
I know. You're very good.
Clearly. Nate's going to probably refer
even
to
with
a list
even
later
with the
tonight.
source, it could still be bait.
These decks actually tonight look pretty good. I'm excited about the Beast Hunter one actually. I don't.
Corp was playing that 30. I know it's not labeled Corbets, but it's Corbets.
Cool.
So there you go.
Well,
yeah, we got good decks tonight.
We can move on, but that was basically my week. I didn't do a whole lot. I wanted to play some standard to get closer. I knew I wasn't going to get legend. I wanted to get triple legend, but it wasn't going to happen. And I sort of gave up. This weekend, I'm going to play a bunch and see how close or how high I can get. So maybe I can get some more bonus stars because 7x sucked.
You have 2 days left.
Yeah, so I'll play this weekend.
You have 2 days left.
Right? See how that goes. Maybe we'll see what happens next month. But yeah, that was my week.
Cool. Well,
Welcome to the news. The news is so good.
you could be on one of these stages over here.
What makes you think I'm not?
Hey,
Stole that from Donnie Darko, by the way.
that's great. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. That's a great movie.
It really is. We got some nerfs. We've got some buffs. We actually got a lot.
Oh my goodness, we got it's kind of funny because they had that post last week about like the patch being swole and had a big buff dude, right? But they weren't joking. The patch is pretty gigantic, and then when we saw the preview of it, it was like, oh my god, they're nerfing the entire Death Knight class. Like, but well, we'll talk about it in a second. But I was just worried that it was going to be like unplayable, but this is just it seems fine. Anyways, as opposed to bringing up all the images, I'm just going to show the Blizzard website with the patch notes and scroll down because there's so much stuff to go through. And going to pass it over to you, either of you, however you want to do it. But because my voice is all scratchy, but there is a ton of stuff here. So yeah, let me just pull up the website and
yeah, we'll start with the Death Knight one, and I think since SchmoopieDaddy's played probably the most Death Knight out of anybody here, he could probably talk about it more. But basically, all Death Knight cards with any 3 rune requirements, so like Frost, Blood, Frost, Unholy, etc., like 3 requirements, are now removed from all Discover pools and random generation effects. How much does this affect the Death Knight player, SchmoopieDaddy?
In Wild, I think it's a huge deal, especially if you're playing Blood and to a limited extent if you're playing Unholy.
Yeah, man. I think both. I think both because, well, with Unholy, it's just the grave strength, right? But Blood is
Marigar.
Oh. Yeah, those two.
You can't discover extra Marigars anymore.
No, those two kind of hurt, and for the Blood players, it hurts really bad because Vampiric Blood was amazing and always getting more.
Like to me, this sounds like a big deal.
Is like, yeah, well,
extra Mograines and even honestly against aggro, just having like finding a Soul Stealer early, knowing you have that in your pocket until turn 8, that you can like stall until turn 8. Like I've beaten big priests with blood DK because I've played like 3, 4, 5 Soul Stealers in a game, and like that's not a thing that can happen anymore. So This is a kind of change where it nerfs the overall power for a class that was already kind of struggling in Wild, and for my money, makes it almost unplayable in the forms that it's in. Like you're playing a meme deck now. Like I don't think Unholy DK is going to be anywhere near as good as it was.
I love Unholy though.
I mean, a lot of the decks were running Discover cards because the pool was so small that there was a really good chance that you were going to get offered something good. But I think that was a limited time thing anyways, because the longer that we're in Wild and the more cards that there are, like the less chance you have of getting something good. But it's still a bummer because we were using those cards. I guess they were, part of me thinks that they were like filler, but it was like value filler because
it was a real strength.
You'd get some pretty good stuff. I mean, I don't think it was super reliable, but it was like, hey, I could play, I could discover a Marrowgar, and like if I'm not even playing Unholy and I can discover a Marrowgar, it's like, oh, this is great. And there was some fun things that you could get up to, or always playing additional Mograines. I think the most I played in one game was 3. It's rad.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's fun.
So, but that being said, I think maybe it's better for the health of the game. Here's the comment. It says, Death Knight is very strong as a class right now, and this change weakens the class across the board. We've also received a lot of feedback that one of the more frustrating parts of playing against Death Knights is when they're able to generate additional copies of their powerful triple rune cards, particularly when the card is one the deck didn't have access to in deck building. So, whatever. But
I mean, this is all like standard player whinging, right? Like this is now one of the best decks. What's funny is it took this long for Death Knight to take off, and off the back of what, I'd have to check and see how many of the cards were standard legal for before the patch. I think like Frost DK was one of the best decks, if not the best deck. And like how many of those cards were legal and around when nobody brought it to Masters, when they made a rule that you couldn't ban Death Knight. So like I'd be curious to go back and check that and see, okay, is this something that people missed? Like was this always this strong? Or was this something that was this something that needed recent support to boost up? Because I don't know, it's the kind of change where it's good for standard, but it's kind of like they wish they could do this to Demon Hunter. When Demon Hunter is good in standard, it usually gets nerfed. And like when it's good in standard, it's like playable in Wild, and then like something gets nerfed and it's like, right, whatever. So I don't know. It's frustrating for me because I like playing the class. I've jammed an unreasonable amount of games.
I thought you were going to say Unholy.
Various archetypes of the class.
Yeah.
What I'm coping on right now is like a double blood Unholy buff, kind of like even deck, because you're more likely to discover the buff spells because they've taken the 3 runes out. So like you're more likely to, like when I'm like 4 for 5 with Hemathurge finding a blood like blood tap.
Oh.
But that's a thing that's not gonna last much past this expansion, and like next expansion, Death Knight's gonna be even more unplayable in Wild. Unless they print something absolutely broken to fill in the discover spots and give us a better sort of like, okay, this is a game plan that you go with. But right now, you guys aren't wrong. Like the discover's a big part. It's even a big part, in my opinion, for Unholy. Because like, listen, sometimes you discover that Grave Strength early, and you haven't drawn the ones in your deck yet. And it's not like that deck is like filled with draw. So
no, and all of the Death Knight decks play so many discover cards. That's just how they've been built since the inception. I think the Nerubian Unraveler, right? The Hematurge and whatever else. I mean, there's so many that say, spend a couple corpses, discover a Death Knight card, or if an undead minion died last turn, then discover a Death Knight card, and your pool now is just not going to be as good. So it's a little bit of a bummer. And I think it will influence the way that we approach deck building in the future. Because, like, why am I going to put a bunch of discover cards in that are not going to discover good cards? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
The sad
know.
part is like that's like your best option right now, right? Like we need more Death Knight cards to fill in those sort of neutral discover spots,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because Vizier is nice because it does also discount the card that you're finding. So sometimes you'd be playing that on 4 and get you like a Frostworm's Fury on 5, and like I found that fun.
I did too,
For
but
people who don't agree with me,
but not anymore.
I guess. Unlucky.
Oh, big thank you to Ben Hearthstone for the graphic. By the way, I just ripped it off. I did not create this, so thank you for these. What we've got up on the screen for you guys listening to the audio version are the Death Knight cards that are no longer going to be discoverable. So it's Plagued Grain, the triple Unholy, Vampiric Blood, the triple Blood, Grave Strength, triple Unholy. We've got Lady Death Whisper. We've got this one that I can't read because it's too small.
That's Marrow Manipulator.
Marrow Manipulator, yes. Alexandros Mograine, Frostworm's Fury, Lord Marrowgar, Soul Stealer, and then the new card, it's the Necrotic Explosion one, the song one, the triple rainbow, whatever. Yeah, so none of those will be discoverable anymore. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, a little sad, but I mean, if it's for the better of the game. All right, so up next, we have, if you want to go through our nerfs here, the next one is Rowdy Fan. So the difference for Rowdy Fan here is it used to grant 4 attack while still alive. It is now going to grant 3 attack instead. This one actually made me sad because I was running this in Odd Rogue.
This card's great.
it is good, and it's probably still pretty good. But like 4 attack is a lot, and it's pretty fun because it's got such a big butt, right, with the 5 health. So it still has that, and I think it's still okay. It's just not as OP as it was already. What do you guys think?
Easy revert. I'd love to see it back in Wild at full strength. It's like fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's not fine for standard, but it's fine for us.
I agree. I think it's an easy revert as well. And I mean, I see why they did it, and they didn't nuke it. I mean, they just reduced it by 1, and I think that's all right. I think the decks that were running it are still going to run it.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, in Wild, you're putting this on, I don't know, something that has charge, like Celsi Deckhand, or like another little pirate, right, that only has 1 health in the first place that they could easily take out. So it's not like it's oppressive by any means, right? Like,
no,
it's
just
no
good.
big deal, but it gives you that burst damage when you have like a little pirate on board or a charger. So I like it. I think it's a great card. I think it's still fine.
Yeah. All right. Next one up is the Death Knight double frost rune, Overseer Frigidera. Battle cry, draw 2 spells. If they're both frost spells, deal 2 damage to all enemies. So it previously was 5 attack, 6 health, and they reduced the attack down to 3. So 3 attack, 6 health. The comment here, Death Knight has several strong decks, and Frost Death Knight stands out as the strongest of the bunch. We wanted to shave a bit more power off it by bringing one of its best cards more in line with the rest of the deck. I don't know, whatever.
This was... Sorry, go ahead.
It is kind of sad, though. I mean, I didn't think it was overpowered, really, because the effect is great, because you're drawing your cool frost spells, but, like, having the extra attack didn't seem like it was, like, busted super good or anything. I don't know.
It's it was a card that was so good in the original like Frost Death Knight deck that I net decked when I was net decking like standard when the class came out. It was a 6-drop you kept in the mulligan.
Wow.
Somewhat for the effect, but also for the fact that like, okay, in some cases it's a board wipe and a threat. So now you've developed a 5/6 and you're smacking them in the face. And by the way, this curves out into Frostworm's Fury, which I'm actually a little surprised it didn't hit the mana cost of. I was anticipating that going to 8. And I was going to really mourn that because then it would have been... Yeah,
don't
okay, sorry.
tell
I shouldn't say
Don't
that
give
too
them any
loud,
ideas.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I love that card, even though that card took me out of the listener series. Just saying.
It certainly did. I saw the replay.
5! He had 5 in his hand at one point.
Wow.
Did you see that?
You didn't have a chance. You should
5!
should have played around it. Fridge,
Another one.
but yeah, no, Fridge no longer being the same physical threat. I think it's sad. I think it's sad that Standard are a bunch of babies, but like it is what it is. Like they're doing their best, right? They're doing the best with the clay that they got. I don't know. That's my input. Is just like I think it was fine as a 5/6 as a 5/6, but
All right, here
fine for Wild.
we can all say
Drum roll.
good riddance to this one. Long time coming. Twig of the World Tree is now kaput. Yeah. Like many people were predicting, it now reads Death Rattle, refresh your mana crystals instead of Death Rattle, gain 10 mana crystals. Because this was created before Guff was a thing, and, well, let me just read the dev comment. Twig of the World Tree is the best card in a really good deck, leading to some frustrating play experiences in Wild right now. The interaction between Twig of the World Tree and Sphere of Sapience did not exist when Twig was first printed, so this change is to curb the card's power level and bring it back closer to the original play pattern. All right. Well, we all saw it coming, and I think we're all glad to see it go. We were talking a little bit about it pre-show, and the general sentiment, I think, is that the card isn't bad. It just is not broken anymore, and
it's different.
It's different now. I mean, you're not going to use it the same way.
It'll still have its purpose.
You're not cracking it on turn 4 anymore.
Sad.
Yeah.
Sad. I mean,
there's no point, right? There's no point.
You'll get 4 mana.
You can still enable combos later in the game. You can play all your stuff. You can break your Twig. You can play a bunch more stuff. Like, that's still pretty crazy. You could still do like 20 mana worth of things in a turn, but you have to wait till... Oh, I guess they still ramp pretty fast. You gotta wait till turn 5 or 6 to do it.
You just have to wait. And that's the point, right? Like, we're okay with powerful stuff, but like you have to do that powerful stuff in a reasonable time frame. Yeah. And this makes a reasonable time frame.
Nobody should have 10 mana on turn 4. That's not okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know what else there is to say about this, except I'm glad that it's here.
It'll still enable some pretty cool things, right? It just won't do that horrible broken thing.
Oh yeah, no, there's still decks that'll use this. There are still decks that will run this. There are still decks that will take full advantage of this that aren't just like, you know, like Tog Druid or Tony Druid, depending on, you know, I guess no one should be playing Tog Druid anymore. It should all be Tony Druid. But depending on you're gonna see Twig. You're gonna see Twig, and it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's just not going to come down on turn 4 and then ruin the game.
Is it going to be okay?
It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right.
Well, there's about a bazillion buffs, so we can talk about those as well. There's a couple that have me on the copium a little bit. All right.
SchmoopieDaddy looks super excited about something.
Right.
This one's good.
All right.
This is good, though.
Okay, first up, so the rest are all buffs, right? We only got 4 nerfs. And then, well, I guess if you count the Death Knight class, right? But
which was like 30 nerfs all in one.
But
infinite nerfs. It was really infinite nerfs. I hope they reverse that. I really do. I hope they take the cuffs off. I'm not optimistic they will. I'm not optimistic they will. I think it's there forever, and it pisses me off a little bit.
I mean, they nerfed Discover, and Discover stayed nerfed from the nerf.
But that made sense. That affected everybody, right? And like it was kind of toxic. Like you could discover an evocation with evocation.
Or flunky with flunky with flunky with flunky.
And like after the second evocation, then you found your ice block, and that saved the quest mage from dying. So like I understand why they made the discover changes that they made. This is a little different because, like, it's going to always stay in place because it has to be balanced for standard. but it's going to make it so imbalanced for Wild. Like, it's such a handcuff that it hurts. It really does. Until Death Knight can stand on its own, and it doesn't need to rely on discovering its own cards to win games. Which, like, all right,
it's going to be a few years.
Has Demon Hunter gotten to that point?
Nope.
Barely.
Kind of.
I don't think so. Like, how often
Outcast
do you?
DH?
Yeah, but when you're playing ladder, how often do you run into Demon Hunter, right?
I don't think it was good since I hit Legend with it like a year ago. Went back when it was
Outcast
like
DH is. Go ahead.
Outcast DH is good-ish. I think it's fast and it's pretty good. It's good in standard and it's probably even better in Wild. When it pops off, personally my favorite was the good old like odd Demon Hunter, but it was more mid-rangey before everything got nerfed to Oblivion. But the Outcast DH is good, I think. Yeah.
Right now, Demon Hunter is in 9th place in Wild of all classes.
It's better than Warrior, right?
Yes, it is beating Death Knight and Warrior.
What's Warrior?
Yeah.
And Death Knight is newer, so okay, fine. And then and then what's Warrior? So
I think
that's
it's
why.
completely unreasonable that people expect a new class like this year. When we just got Death Knight, they need to stop asking us to release Warrior, right? Like that's it's just not nice.
They just keep killing the pirates. It makes me so sad. Like, don't do me like that. You're gonna print these cards, and
I don't. Why would they?
But this card's good though. I promise, this is a good Warrior card. This is like draw, but not quite.
Okay. Tell us about Rockmaster Voon, SchmoopieDaddy.
Okay, it prints one. What is it? One minion of every unique type in your hand, or something like that. Like it's like
Battlecry. Copy a minion of each minion type in your hand.
Okay, so what's going to be fun about this bad boy later is the only undead we run in our deck is Lotheb, so just keep that in mind. So let's print more Lothebs. Let's print more Parachute Brigands. Let's print more Pen Trashers. Let's print more. I don't know, you end up printing more amalgams and God knows what they're supposed to count as, right? And you just it's just print value. And at 3 mana, when it curves out so nicely with like Ringleader's Baton, this is a very nice piece. This is a very strong card now. It's kind of insane. It's also Warrior, so it's fine. But this is the kind of card that would be not fine in other classes. This is a very good card now.
It's almost like draw in a different way. Like
yes,
you know what I mean. Like if you have 3 minions in hand at a time, you just drew 3 cards. Right?
It's a value engine for sure. I just think it wasn't.
And it's early. You could play it for tempo and keep going.
But you need to be able to play the value, right? And depending on the deck, you need to be able to play that value quickly, which is what we'll keep an eye on when we talk about it later. But yeah, this is a good card, I think.
All right, next up is Verse Riff. It just got reduced in mana. So Verse Riff is again warrior common spell. It says give your hero +2 attack this turn, gain 2 armor, finale, play your last riff. I don't know what that does. But it's
so funny. Neither do I, because I never haven't done
it's
this.
The Druid card ignoring the finale, right?
Previously, it was 2 mana. Now it's 1. So yeah, what does the last riff do? It sounds.
Well,
awesome,
it depends on whatever riff you played. So the first, like if you play this on turn one, further effect.
Sorry, I thought it was. I was thinking it had something to do with music. Yeah.
But let's say it's like turn 2, you play this, and then you have a second copy, and you play that. It will actually replay the first one you played. So now you have 6 attack and 6 armor.
You know, I was just as confused as Nate. I'm like, what is the last, like the final riff? What is final riff?
That's just a Druid claw.
Toki.
The claw card. What's the epic? The claw card that you get off.
Show someone standard replay, Nate. There's no idea.
I haven't touched Warrior in years because the class is so
card.
bad. Oh,
but it's a Druid. But I'm saying this is literally a Druid card. If you take away the finale,
yeah.
What's the card in Druid that gives you that's 1 mana, gives you 2 attack and 2 armor?
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah.
I know the one.
So like this is like
they play it all the time.
Could you play this in Odd Warrior? You absolutely could make a case to play it, possibly. Like, it's not premium removal, but like, I don't know.
Would you play Voon in Odd Warrior?
It depends on how you build it. And I just played Bat Mazel today, and depending on how he builds it, and he built it with like a lot of charge minions in hand. Yeah, that seems like that'd be a good card to play in Odd Warrior. Yeah. Yeah.
The artwork on all these is so rad. It's all
it's so good.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right, here's another riff. Bridge riff.
That's time if we're talking about the artwork, by the way.
Speaking of Odd Warrior.
Good, bad.
Speaking of Odd Warrior, Bridge Rift previously was 6 mana and now it is 5. Bridge Rift says summon a 3/4 rocker with taunt and a 4/3 with rush. Finale, play your last rift. So yeah. Odd Rift Warrior.
Engine was playing a control with riff like Dead Man's Hand Warrior and had a decent win rate through like 4 games, but it took him like at least to report on the 4 games. It took him like an hour to report 4 games.
Oh my gosh!
So I imagine he was taking forever to grind people down.
Yeah,
on the rip. That seems like an okay card. Now that it's 5 mana though, like 5 mana and you get
a 3/4 with taunt
some taunt.
If you had like just played, if this was your last riff, and then you played this one, it's gonna play it twice, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat.
And I'm trying to keep in mind the context. This is never going to see high level of play. But if you're in like the 10x range and you're still playing against naive people that care about board, like this is a good card.
Yeah.
Or if you're playing in the Born to Be Wild listener series,
100%. 100%.
You're trying to play to the restrictions. This is going in your deck.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
There's a lot of value here actually, and I think I overlooked it before just because of the mana cost and like it was warrior. So yeah, I've actually been on my wish list of things has been a Menagerie Warrior list, or for Menagerie Warrior to be viable at some point. And we may be getting, I think every year we bring it up and say, well, maybe not this year, but maybe next year it'll be viable. And every year we get a little bit closer. And I think even we'll talk about a list tonight. We're even a little bit more closer than we were last time. So we'll see. I like the idea of it anyways. There's some good cards. So yeah.
Speaking of Menagerie, this thing sort of benefits from that. This next card, Power Slider, used to be a 3 mana, 1 attack, 2 health, rush, battle cry, gain +1/+1 for each minion type you've played this game. It now starts with base stats 2 attack, 3 health, up from the 1 attack, 2 health. So I actually think this is like a solid buff for this card. Like this
card's gnarly.
It has legs now. Like that is a huge change.
I like it. It's gnarly. I have found so far in the deck list that we're gonna show later tonight that this is proved to be more playable than the Tent Trasher. While you're trying to do like silly things to like get the Tent Trasher out, you look down and like it's turn 5 and you've got the mana to float, and you're like, I've played 4 or 5 minion types, and you just slam this thing down, and it's like a 7/8 or a 6/7 with rush, and you just crash it into something, and it's just like, okay, your move, right? Or like if it's like turn 6 and you've got 2 of them, and you're just like, okay, your turn. No, this is cool. And if something is going to push that kind of archetype, it's going to be something like this. I think this is a good card. I promise some of these buffs I'm going to be like, but this is a good one. I like this.
It is odd as well.
Well,
all right.
Speaking of the opposite of odd, which is even, how do we feel about Shield Block, which was like a staple, right, for Odd Warrior? They want to gain mana, they want to draw cards. It is no longer 3 mana. They've nerfed it to 2 mana.
Shame.
I've gotten so many pings in some circles about this card because I am a known even warrior degenerate. I even got my neon tweet with an even warrior last meta just before new cards dropped. I made room for this. I think it's a good card. Like something you're always trying to do is you're always trying to have Shield Shatter active, right? And Shield Shatter again reads it's a 10 mana card, but it's discounted by 1 for every armor that you have gained, or that you have up currently on your person. So you play something like this, 2 mana, it's discounting your Shield Shatter by 5 immediately. And 5 is a very important breakpoint. It's decent and wild. The best thing that Warrior I think still does, possibly in either format, is Frozen Buckler into Shield Shatter, which is part of the reason why it is where it is. Like I think you can make a case now that maybe to the front and then doing some silly war song stuff is better, which is a good sign. But this helps facilitate Shield Shatter. I made room for it in my list. I don't think I cut anything significant. I think I cut goofy stuff like Weapons Project. That was for breaking swordfish, or chisels and stuff. This is a good card. This goes in, but like it's gonna see marginal meme play. It's busted. Good card, no home in Wild right now, outside of a counter Q deck, basically a counter Q aggro deck.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it was funny that I thought it was basically nerf when I first saw it because it was no longer odd. But hey, I guess
we're looking at enough warrior buffs. We might see like a decent Reno warrior list at some point. Like that's something I'm going to keep my eye out on because like that's something that I know people that I talk to are not going to build, but somebody will.
You know what? Forget about Baku. Just bring back Justicar Trueheart. You know. Only kidding. Don't play that card.
Wow.
Well,
zoinks.
Yeah, zoinks. We talked about Discover getting nerfed, and this was part of the problem here when it came to the quest.
This was the problem at the time. Yeah, I remember that meta.
Yeah, Frightened Flunky, who could make you progress the quest by just playing this card over and over again by discovering itself. Anyway, it used to be 2 attack, 2 health, taunt, Battlecry, Discover, a taunt minion. They've buffed it. They've put a bigger butt on it. It is now a 2/3. So cool, I guess. I mean, I like that it has that health because the 2/2 doesn't do a whole lot. 1 mana minions can trade up into this really easily at 2 health, so I think this is a fine buff given it 3.
I'm actually like, okay, this is some high level schmoopy copium. I'm keeping an eye on like Taunt Warrior or like Bolster Warrior for the next meta, because if the best deck is the deck that I think is going to be the best deck, then that deck will be like maybe tier 3 playable. This is the kind of card that goes in that deck, and this is the kind of card that's like really good in that deck. And so I think you might see a fair amount of Frightened Flunky as a River Croc. Like this will move the needle at 10x maybe. Like again, top meta, no one's ever gonna sniff it. But like you want to catch somebody off guard in THL and bring something funky. That yeah, I think you might. You might see a Bolster Warrior in there. Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's goofy. I'm crazy enough to do it once.
Well, why not? Any thoughts on this Unfrightened Flunky, Nate? I just think it's just a decent buff. Nothing too much to talk about. You're muted, Nate.
Sorry, my kid popped in and then left, and I was like, "Oh, what happened? Do you need me for something?" No, just saying hi. Oh, okay. Anyways, this seems fine. I was on the Taunt Warrior, like Quest Taunt Warrior copium for a long time. At the time, now we see it in like listener series decks and stuff every once in a while, but I don't particularly have an issue with this. I mean, gosh. So I remember there was a time, this is a good like 2 or 3 years ago probably, when Reno Jackson made a Questline Taunt Warrior that was running like the Frightened Flunkies, and it was running like the 0/4 with taunt and the hand buff stuff, and it was super fun. It was very high rolly, but it was really fun, and I did well with it at the time. And I like this card because it's like it's so Scooby-Doo, right? Every time I look at this, all I see is Shaggy, and
You just see Shaggy, yeah.
it's funny to me. No, I
Well,
don't.
I was gonna say we might transition into a meta where taunt's premium, and like this is as premium as you get, right? Like this is on curve. Let's print more taunt. Let's go.
It's I mean, it's a River Croc with taunt and a discover another taunt. That seems pretty good. Armorn, you can hear the teeth chattering totally, right? When you look at it, it's got Scooby-Doo vibes super hard. I love it. All right, this next one is the new legendary elemental beast Thora Belor, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It is a 4 mana 4/4 elemental beast. Rush, Death Rattle, go dormant. Cast a fire spell to revive Thora Belor. So I never had played it yet. Before it said revives 2 times. Now it just says to revive it. So can it revive infinite times now?
Now it can revive infinite times.
Oh, that's
Which would have been great for the achievement when the achievement applied to experience. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a major buff then. If from reviving twice versus now infinitely, basically it's the Rat King, right? Like that's
Rat King, but easier because like a lot of the fire spells are discounted by stuff like, oh, your stuff's damage. Draw 2 cards. It costs 1 less for each thing that's damaged. So like this is a good buff. It's gonna be a long time before this is good and wild though.
Yeah. Here's the comment. Warrior had 2 major themes this expansion, Menagerie and Rifts, and neither of them landed at the level we were hoping for at launch. We're buffing these Festival of Legends cards to give those themes a chance. We're also buffing some older cards to help support the class generally. Shield Block is a card we now hope can become a definitional power card that represents what Warrior is about. All right. I had to read that word slowly because I was like, I don't know if that's a real word.
I've never seen definitional before.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of words.
Me too. Anyways, we'll continue to monitor the class after these adjustments to determine if further changes are needed down the line. This has been needed so hard because like we've been saying it for months now that you look at HS Replay and when Warrior's down at the bottom for like 6 months plus at a time, to the point where it's like not even played anymore, that they needed to do something to revive the class as a whole. I'm all aboard the Menagerie train if we want to try to make that work. That sounds fun to me. I don't know how good it will be, but I'm totally down to try it. I like the idea. And the deck we're going to feature tonight is by Get Me Out, who's a great deck builder as well, and a friend of ours. So I'm excited to check this out. Out of the card seems decent, and the fire spells actually seem pretty good.
Yeah, it's just not going to be good in wild for a long time because you're not going to be playing that much fire. In wild for a long time. Yeah. So like this is one of the kind of snores that I got. Like I wish it was printed this way. Like that would make sense. But whatever.
All right. Here's some more. We've got some more from other classes. So Mage is up next. We've got their legendary spell, Infinitize the Maxitude. Old said discover a spell. Finale, return this card to your hand at the end of the turn. New says discover a spell, reduce its cost by 1. Finale, return this to your hand at the end of the turn. So cool, just what we needed. Spell
as
reduction.
As a casino player, this is a good change.
Yeah. Well, it makes the card way better. Yeah.
Way better. Playing stuff for free in Quest Mage is always better than playing stuff for mana in Quest Mage. Now again, this doesn't go in like the good Quest Mage. This goes in like the goofy, let me see if I can scam you Quest Mage. So like this is a good change. Again, probably should have been printed this way if you were printing the set for Wild. That's basically my input on it. It's like good change. I like this.
This goes in your like Reno Quest Mage, right?
Maybe. Depends.
I don't. I mean, it's only cost 2 mana. Now that it reduces the cost by 1, and that seems good to me. Like
it clogs your hand because you keep casting more copies of itself, right? So like every time that you've cast it, you're going to keep recasting it. And the problem is when you play Romath, you're casting, maybe 4, 5, 6 copies of this, and it could possibly block Romath from getting potioned back into your hand.
Oh.
So it's not all upside. There is a cost to this, which is why I think it belongs in a casino deck where you're constantly generating value and you're not trying to go. What's funny about that deck, and I've played a fair amount of that deck, that's expansion, you're not trying to necessarily go infinite with that deck. You can, that'd be great, but mostly you're just trying to create this really goofy, unbalanced outvalue situation for the opponent, where the opponent, you take a couple turns and you can win in a couple turns with whatever garbage you've generated. And this fits in that, because again, that's not trying to go infinite. That's just trying to just generate value. This generates value. Perfect.
Fair enough. I don't think I have anything to add to it. Hydra, any thoughts on this one?
No. I'm good.
Cool.
If you're a budget player and you get this, you probably dust it immediately. I enjoy it. I love playing with it, but that's where you're at with it. Yeah.
All right. Next up is Audio Splitter. Previously was 3 mana, 4 attack, 3 health. Now it's 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 health. So it's the same, I guess, general stat line for cheaper. So it was a 4/3 for 3. Now it's a 3/2 for 2.
Yeah, I don't know. When they do these, it's not necessarily a buff to me. It's a card change, because it's not like they've added something to it. You can play it earlier, but they've also reduced its strength as well.
I think that, though, I look at it as a buff because you're really playing this for the death rattle, because you want the extra copy of the spells, whether it's the arcane spells that you're trying to cheat out, or that new, whatever it's called, that does more damage every time you played it, and getting extra copies of these spells to play. And so
if it's specifically for that,
it does curve in the light show. You're right. It does curve in the light show.
If you're specifically looking at that generation of those spells, then definitely, because you can do that sooner, right? As a tempo card, they've reduced it, obviously, but yeah.
Well, this is interesting, and I've heard whispers on Discord all day.
Wait a second. I was just gonna say something about.
Oh, please do. Sorry, no, yeah, you carry on.
No, it's okay. I've seen people trying this in Mech Mage, which is a very good deck right now.
Oh, that's scary, man, because you could get the one that draws all your mechs, right?
More Book of Specters, and White Delight is goofing around with Frozen Touches in his deck. So print more Frozen Touches. So this dies, you infuse more Frozen Touches, you print more Frozen Touches. Now you've gotten the opponent pretty close to dead, but that's a lot of these mech decks, they play almost like they've got T-Rex arms, with Mech Mage not being necessarily in that, because they have Shark, right? Do, Mecha Shark, do. But if you imagine that, I know White Delight was playing around with let me put some Frozen Touches in my mech deck, and maybe I get more reach. This prints more of those. This prints more Book of Specters. I'm not saying it's great, and he's not either. It's probably card 26 in the deck when he's trying it, but that's interesting, right? More draw good. So
yeah, I agree. It's worth exploring for sure.
But yeah, no, the real spicy one is next.
Oh yeah. So yes, Whispers of the Deep, right? Spite Lash Siren, Naga Mage may be back. So this is what I've been hearing on Discord and Twitter throughout the day. Naga Mage. So the Spite Lash Siren previously was 5 mana, 2/6. That says after you play a Naga, refresh 2 mana spells or 2 mana crystals, then switch to spell. And so this was spell, minion, and it was reducing things. And they've reduced the cost down to 4 mana, and so it makes this card playable again. And I think it may revive this archetype. It's a tricky deck to play, but I feel like it's kind of skill intensive. I played a bit of it during Sunken City. It's been a while, but I think this card is a scary card.
I think anytime you're going to be reducing mana on something that you're looking to have the effect, because that's what we're looking for here, it's definitely scary because you can do whatever it is a turn earlier now, and then that could just enable so much more.
Specifically looking at Wild, depends on how many 1-mana Nagas they print in the future that are good. Because that's where this really kind of like... that's where this thing kind of goes off the rails, is when you're playing 1-mana or 0-mana stuff, and then you're basically printing mana to do more things. As an avid Naga Mage player myself, when it was using the hero package back in Sunken City, which was like one of my favorite standard decks of all time, because it was just so cool. It was like sometimes it was just like, yeah, look, I played out all these minions, and oh, by the way, I smacked you with a Mordrash. Like, it was just nuts. I don't think we get to that point in Wild anytime soon, but we could. So like, this is a good change. This is a fun change. We're gonna enjoy this for a while, especially me and the hipsters playing off meta stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't goofed around with a Wild Naga Mage yet. I built one and deleted it because I was just like, no, we want to kind of try to climb this week. But I will probably play something similar next week and try to make it work after I've hit Legend. But good change, fun change.
Yeah, it sounds fun, because like now with the 1-mana amalgam, right? Like that, you could play that with this on the same turn, like on a turn 5, I guess, before you'd have to wait an extra turn. So just squeezing in those little cheap Nagas to refresh your mana crystals, it's just that much easier. All right, what do we have next? Oh yes, Arcane Artificer. You know,
There's a blast from the past.
This card always seemed funny to me with 2 health, and I don't know why. I mean, maybe just because I'm used to playing like OP cards in Wild, but it always seemed kind of lame with 2 health on it. But anyways, Arcane Artificer, we all know it as the 1 attack, 2 health elemental. Whenever you cast a spell, gain armor equal to its cost. Well, they just gave it 3 health, right? It still does the exact same thing that it used to. Good card, and it just it's gonna stick on the board, help, you know, take care of some early game minions a little more, because it can put up with that. So I think it's a good change.
Yeah. Here's a dev.
LPG loves this.
Who? Wait, who does? What?
LPG loves this.
Oh. Yeah.
But LPG isn't a real deck. So
Yeah,
It's been a minute.
you know what I mean, right? Like against like aggro or whatever, this thing can take out.
Great card, no home. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the dev comment. Mage got 2 major focuses in Festival of Legends, Light Show and DJ Manastorm. Audio Splitter and Infatize the Maxitude can both fit into these decks and others, so we hope these changes can help open up the class. As for the reversion to Spitelash Siren, what more can we say other than Naga, spell, Naga? Okay. Well, I guess they're fans, right? Yeah, that was a fun deck. I like this card. I haven't played it in a long time, but I don't know. This makes it more playable, that's for sure. Will it see play in Wild? Probably not. At least not for a while.
I've never played it in Wild. I've only ever played it in Standard.
Yeah, it doesn't have a home at the moment, for sure.
Yeah, like if like Big Spell Mage somehow like, gets a couple pieces and like all of a sudden it's a Wild deck, which is something you could see possibly being a Wild deck, right? Like this goes in that, but
yeah, it could.
It's good card. Just keep in the back of your mind for later. Great listener series card.
Yeah,
right?
I played it actually in the listener series this time around when we had the elemental requirement or whatever it was, and I like this with Frostlich Jaina too. All right, well, here's some fun ones, and we'll bring this card up later tonight because it is in one of our decks. We're on to Hunter now. So this is the new Hunter legendary song called Stranglethorn Heart. It's a legendary spells, tradable, resurrect all friendly beasts that cost 5 or more. Previously was 10 mana, and they've reduced it down to 8. So that makes it back to like the realm of playability, I think, for us. And in the right deck, as we'll see later, this has some pretty big potential. Like you play your deck out right, and if everything gets cleared, like this is a revive everything with charge OTK potentially. It's pretty
This is Mass
gnarly.
Resurrection on roids. Yeah.
This is crazy.
This is gross.
This is super crazy.
Especially in the context that we play it. I'm shocked they made it 8. I thought they were gonna maybe make it 9, and the fact that they made it 8, and they're just like, okay, do your worst. Like,
let's do it. Let's go. Like, I like it.
We'll go into why this is such a big change for the deck in question later. But like, it's worth making note of the fact that it does have tradable attached to it. If you find yourself like with a bad hand and you happen to draw this too early, it's not great. Like, you just trade it back into the deck.
Well,
especially after a dredge or something like that, where like, you know, you smack with your harpoon gun, you've made something cost 0. You have a mana to float. Trade it in. You can play your 0 cost thing now. So like there are some interesting play patterns with it.
Hunter's missing draw, right? Which is why we always were running like the tradable cards when we were playing Questline Hunter, because there was no draw. And I mean, granted, we were also seeing a lot of like, I don't know, it was like Fish Rogue or Kingsbane or whatever it was at the time. And so having the Viper didn't hurt. Well, also Pirate Warrior, I think, was pretty big at the time too, while we were back using like unnerfed Raid the Docks. But the tradable is just good in Hunter. So like SchmoopieDaddy said, you draw this card and you're not ready to play it, just trade it off and draw something else. It's great.
I love that on a high cost card like this, right? Like,
yeah.
You get this in your opening hand, and you're like, oh, sweet. I can't play this till the end game, right? It's like,
right?
Oh, no, we're good. Like, tradable on a high cost card. Imagine, like, Blood Reaver Gul'dan or something, or N'Zoth had tradable.
You're like, it'd be broken. It'd be so good.
Right? Like, that's why this is so cool. They would never, but... I mean, they're doing that with this one.
The animation when this plays also is super cool.
I have not played the card.
I have not played it myself, but I've seen it in videos and stuff, and it's really cool. Yeah, we'll have to check it out. But this seems neat to me, and we'll feature it in a list in just a minute. The next one, speaking of, I have some like Questline Hunter copium going on.
Yeah.
I played it in the listener series, but like this was one of my favorite decks for a long time. I played it I think I hit Legend with it 3 months in a row back in its heyday. And then when it got nerfed, I went over to Standard and hit Legend with it there. So Halderon Brightwing is, coincidentally, it's one of the signature cards from March of the Lich King. SchmoopieDaddy, I like your plaid pants if you're listening.
Thank you.
I was just saying, yeah, I've been on the Questline Hunter copium train a little bit. I played in the listener series and it went really well. I enjoy putting Halderon Brightwing in the deck then, which was really questionable. I almost wonder if it makes it okay. Now the deck is like fringe playable right now, okay, for sure. But they upgraded this card, so it's 3 mana, 3/4 Battle Cry. Previously it said give all arcane spells in your deck spell damage +1. Now it says give all arcane spells in your hand and in your deck spell damage +1. So that's a lot of spell damage potentially.
It is. It's definitely better. Now here's my one thought and complaint about this card. Hunter sucks at drawing.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I'm playing this deck, my hand is always super empty when I'm playing Questline Hunter, because I'm just doing the thing to complete my quest as much as possible. So yeah, there is a chance I'm going to buff a bunch of stuff in my hand if I'm playing this maybe later.
There is
before you want to go off, but if I'm playing it on curve, there's chances are my hand is empty.
There are new there's a new draw spell for Hunter.
I'm looking up if it's arcane right now. I was just thinking that the one that targets a minion, and based on the amount of damage it draws, like at mana thirst 6, it draws that many cards or something like that. I'm looking it up now if it's arcane or not, because that's intriguing. I have found more modern, streamlined versions of Questline Hunter.
It's Conjured Arrow. Yeah.
Oh, that's the one, yeah.
So now Conjured Arrow now deals 3 according to this.
Yep.
So you're drawing 3 for 2 mana. You also have Arcane Quiver, which is an arcane spell that can help you discover a spell from your deck. If it's arcane, give it spell damage +1. There's some cute synergy there. I actually played a fair amount of Questline Hunter. There was a list that OTZ kind of threw together and never played himself because he was too cowardly to do so. but I played it.
When you're rank 1 legend, you may not want to queue that up, so that's okay.
It felt pretty solid. I did pass it on to Blue Train a little bit, and he can kind of attest to this. Like when it worked, it worked. Were there enough arcane spells in that for this to make it worth? I don't think so. But they keep printing like 1 mana arcane spells.
Yeah.
And this is a card to keep an eye on in the future, but like I would say in the distant future and not the near future.
Yeah.
Potential.
I'm pulling up Hearthstone real quick because the website doesn't let you search by spell type. I typed in arcane and it wasn't showing me what I wanted to see.
Right.
But I think that there's not a ton, but there's enough, I think, in my mind to make it kind of worth maybe. Let me see here. Let me just look under Hunter and then Arcane.
Or even like you look at stuff like Quick Shot and stuff like that. It's not arcane.
No,
so you're not
but
getting, or like Aim Shot, you're not getting it.
Okay, so here's some though. So Arcane Shot, 2 damage for 1 mana. I've got one of the new ones. Arcane Quiver is discover a spell from your deck. If it's arcane, give it spell damage +1. So that's a pseudo draw, right? I've got Brightwing that we're talking about right now. Oh, is that it? Is that it?
Yeah, there's not much.
Balls, that's not very much. Yeah, all right.
Because I thought there was series. I remember searching.
There has to be more because we were just talking about more. It doesn't. Oh no! I spelled it wrong. Okay. So Ricocheted Shot is 1 mana arcane, deal 1 damage to 3 random enemies. I've got Conjured Arrows is 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a minion. Mana Thirst 6, draw that many cards. Wow, is that really it?
Yeah, I was trying to build a good deck for this, and I was searching, and I'm like, oh man, there just isn't enough.
There's no arcane spells, so why would they even print this legendary? So that, especially if I look at standard right now, because this just came out
that's
the
main complaint, Nate, about Arcane Hunter. This is just why
there's no arcane spells. This is
why
this is insane. So in standard right now,
just you wait for the mini set. Arcane mini set.
There's a total of 5 spells: Arcane Shot, Ricochet Shot, Arcane Quiver, which is not damage, it's just discover a spell, Conjured Arrow, and Eversong Portal, which says summon 1/4/4 links with Rush. And that improves by spell damage, so maybe that's what they were going for, but that card's dumb. We're not playing that in.
I honestly, okay, here's what's kind of funny. The tutor a spell, give it +1 arcane damage spell. That's better in Arena Hunter when you're not playing arcane spells, because you're actually tutoring stuff like spells that you really want, like Tracking or Serpent Bloom, or something that you have a specific reason to want it. The more stuff that you play, the fewer spells you play, the better that spell becomes. So
yeah, all right. Well, I'm off the Questline Hunter Copium. I just changed my mind. I can't believe
this is not a good card.
Give it a few years,
but it'll get there.
We need more. Well, this is going to be the scary part, right? In a couple years from now, when there's more arcane spells in Hunter, we're going to be like, uh-oh, now Hunter's got spell damage and draw and whatever else, but not right now. Not right now. So, all right. Well, all my hopes and dreams are all shattered. Sad.
Sorry.
No,
Is
no,
this
that's
even
fine.
a card that even? This is one of the ones
No.
I was going to snore at. So like,
Yeah, okay, so here's the dev comment. Like Infantize the Maxitude, Stranglethorn Heart is underperforming. We're giving them both buffs because we want these legendary spells to feel better to open and play. We're also buffing Haldron to give some help to the Arcane Hunter package that has never had a chance to shine. That's just bollocks because there's not even any arcane spells to play in the
there's no
first
arcane
place.
spells. Like, no.
All right.
It's
Anyways, all right. Well, let's move on then to Shaman. First up is Jazz Base. It is a 3-mana 3/2 weapon. Previously it said 2 attack, 2 durability. Now it says 3 attack, 2 durability. So it got an additional attack. Death Rattle. Your next spell costs 1 less. Overload while equipped to improve. I have not played any Overload Shaman in recent.
So it just goes like so if you have this equipped and then you keep overloading, it's gonna cost 1 less, 2 less, 3 less, 4 less, 5 less kind of thing. Like that's the idea from what I recall. I mean, I like the fact that this is why they had to buff or revert Fiery War Axe, right? Because cards have like the weapons are so crazy.
yeah, it's a joke, right?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I guess.
Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting what it does, but I don't know that it has a place, especially in Wild. I don't think we were ever playing it in Overload like Questline Shaman.
I guess you could do some overload aggressive spell damage face stuff, and this is your fireball. I don't know. Like,
I don't know. This whole Overload package, I mean, I already know what the dev comment's going to say. The Overload cards that we printed were not performing very well, so we decided to buff them so they see some more play. Like, we'll see if I'm right in just a minute when we get there, but I'm like, that's because here's another one, right? Here's Altered Chord. Previously, old said lifesteal, deal 5 damage to a minion, cost 3 less if you're overloaded. Now it says deal 6 damage to a minion, cost 3 less if you're overloaded. So like it's a buff as well. We give it 1 extra damage. Okay.
There's no mid-range Overload Shaman where this goes. Like, this is a good card, but that deck doesn't exist. Like, it wants a lower curve, so move on.
They missed a really good pun opportunity to stick this next card in a rogue deck because it's a rap name. Flow Rider. Flow Rider is a Shaman Naga minion. Previously was 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 health. Now is 1 mana, 2 attack, 1 health. So it says Battle Cry. If you're overloaded, discover a spell from your deck. It's actually a pretty good card in that.
I could see
deck.
this play. I could see this seeing play. This is tracking, right? This is 1 mana tracking on a body.
Yeah, no, that seems good. This seems good.
conditional.
Yes, but
So it's not a turn 1 play.
no, but I think also because you're discovering one from your deck, that means you got a copy, right? You're not like pulling.
Probably
it from your
playing the
deck?
quest line. Do you really care about playing this on turn 1?
No, yeah. This I could see this being good in the quest line if that
Correct.
comes back, because especially with it's essentially 1 mana tracking, like you said, on a stick. I think it looks pretty good.
Oh, guess what? The next card is also Overload. Seeing a trend here. Weird. So, hey, Lightning Storm. We remember this card. It was already buffed at one point, right? It used to say like deal 2 to 3 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At one
it used to really gamble.
That sucked. That sucked
That
so
did suck.
much. Like you're like,
That's awful.
fingers crossed. But anyway, so deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. Overload 1 now instead of Overload 2.
This
Def buff.
Yeah, I think so, and I think this might you could put this in like a Shutterwalk Shaman or something like that, where it doesn't have the huge downside that it previously did. 3 damage to the whole board with Overload 1 is not that bad.
Guaranteed 3, not 2 to 3.
Yeah, the 2 to 3 was rough. When it was 2 to 3, I'd never play it because it was too much of a gamble. And when you're going up against a deck like an aggro deck that's going to kill you, and you're like praying to Flannel Jesus to a high roll, right? And it just never quite worked out the way that I wanted it to. So I like that they made this consistent damage. Where I really see it, like you said, is the Zeph buff, because we probably still don't put this in our deck, but it makes choosing Lightning Storm from a Discover type card much better.
You could put this in a like a Shudderwalk deck. Like, this would not be out of the ordinary. It's only Overload 1. But it's only Overload 1. You could play another 3-drop on turn 4. Like, you're not stuck playing 2 drops on turn 4.
Yeah.
So Nate,
sorry, Hydra, I cut you off.
No. I was just gonna ask, Nate, can you tell us what the dev comment said?
The new Overload Shaman deck has not performed where we wanted or expected it to, so we're giving it help with all these changes. This change to Lightning Storm also puts it better in line with other current 3 to 4 cost AoE spells.
The first sentence was almost word for word,
right?
Predicted.
Jeez. Well, I'm not surprised. They made the Festival Legend cards with these mechanics that they really want them to shine, and nobody's playing them because they're not good enough. So they're buffing them to encourage people to play with them. Frankly, if a card, like, I look at the card and I'm like, this card is bad, I'm not going to play it either. So maybe I will now. I actually like this Flow Rider card. I think maybe pretty fun and pretty good. These other ones, I still like, but the Flow Rider I think is good. All right, well, let's move on to... Oh, sorry, do you want to comment on it?
No. Like, I want to like that Lifesteal spell. I really want to like that Lifesteal spell. It's just, I think it's like a couple mana too slow. And it just needs a different deck than what we're used to. But that's all I'm thinking about.
Next up is Nate Bait.
Sorry, Nate.
Right, anything Warlock is Nate Bait.
So these next ones, again, these are the same type of thing. This is gonna be the same thing again, right? We printed these fatigue spells and nobody's playing them, so we can make them a little bit better. All right, here we go. Crescendo was 3 mana, now it costs 2. It says take fatigue damage, deal that much damage to all enemies. Okay. The next one up, they
were already playing this card in that deck, so it just makes it better.
Was anyone playing that deck?
The one where you actually, hold on, Ben from work.
Oh, maybe. Have you? I mean, I don't know. I've not played them.
Hold on.
So here's okay. Yeah. Well, so this is interesting though. Anytime we see mana change go from like odd to even in Warlock, everyone's kind of like, maybe. It's like super copium. So as SchmoopieDaddy and I were talking in the Discord, like, hey, even Warlock, maybe. And there was a card we'll talk about in just a moment where I was like, oh, this is even Warlock copium right here. And he's like, coincidentally, the new fatigue cards are also even. I was like, make it so.
I didn't bait Nate.
I haven't. Well, and then you were test playing it and went 2-0 with it, right? So there you go, 100% win rate.
Actually, I have to take it back. I'm looking through all of the lists that Ben from work sent me because he sent me a whole bunch. It was not in any of them. Sorry, Ben.
Thank goodness.
Okay. So I have not had a chance to play with these fatigue ones. What I was looking for was other fatigue synergy, and there's 2 routes to go with it, right? One is the Questline, which is odd cost. The other, which recently unbanned, right? The other is Niru Fireblade, which is bad and also is odd cost. So these don't work with that if you want to go that route.
You're missing Chef Nomi, but no, you're not wrong. The Questline, like, I tried these in Questline and they were not popping at all.
Sad.
They were very slow compared to, like, I'd rather play a Flame Imp than some of these cards. The fatigue spell I didn't mind, especially because you could kind of, like, it's only 2 mana. You could sit it in your hand in the right situation. You could sit on it, play a Backfire. You've got Tamsin Online.
I mean, realistically though, Crescendo is like 2 mana, deal 1 damage to everything. Another 2 mana to deal 2 damage to everything. Like, it's not very good. That's
not very good, not awful.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're targeting, right? If you're targeting pirates, it's okay. Or like, unbuffed totems, but.
All right, so the next one is the same type of deal, right? Crazed Conductor previously cost 5 mana as a 4/5, and now it's a 4 mana 3/4. Battlecry, take fatigue damage, summon that many 3/3 imps. It's the same thing though, and I don't think that the fatigue package is very good, unfortunately, because I like the idea, but I think if you look at this cost, or what do you call it in boring person terms, benefit detriment analysis, right? Like what is the pros and cons? There you go. Taking the fatigue damage versus the payoff is not that good, and if I'm going to be taking fatigue damage, like I want that to go towards something, which I guess you could do like the Questline, but I think that there's just so much better ways to do that rather than these fatigue cards. So
I was just looking on HS Replay because I'm like, I versed that card, I swear. It is run in Fatigue Imp Warlock Crescendo.
What is Fatigue Imp Warlock?
A standard deck that apparently has like 60 some odd percent, 63% win rate on HS Replay.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I like the idea. And here's my problem. I think I should say this. What happens is in standard, I tend to focus on the classes that I'm not quite yet to 1K with. So it's Demon Hunter and it's Death Knight. And so when these new cards come out for Warlock or the other classes, like I won't play them nearly as much because I'm not trying to grind out wins. I like seeing the new archetypes. They're definitely like, this is geared more towards standard. I have not played the Fatigue Imp Warlock, but I probably should. I packed a golden, the legendary spell, the song, whatever it's called. And, would really like to play that. I just haven't got around to it. I feel like such an old person saying that, but speaking of even lock though, this is where I was quite excited. Siphon Soul is now 4 mana.
That's cool.
Yeah. So this goes in even Warlock for sure.
Doesn't it?
Why not?
Close.
I mean, it's
4 mana, make your Molten Giant more expensive.
It's true.
That's the problem.
It's true, but like it's also 4 mana, kill anything and gain 3 health. Like maybe I swing into something, play my Molten Giant, and then I play this. I don't know. Like I remember there being some things in even Warlock to like prevent you from dying. Like you want to get your Molten Giants out for cheap, but then you also want to like live. So I don't know. Maybe there is some anti-synergy.
I don't hate it. I honestly don't hate it. I'm trying 1 copy. 2 copies felt too awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not quite there. I think it is a fantastic Reno lock card.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
Like single target, kill anything, and you gain health. Yeah. 100%. Sign me up.
How much is Symphony of Sins? Is that 6?
That's 6.
Okay. That one looks super cool. I've only played it once or twice. I had it played against me once or twice. Card seems pretty nutty. I like it.
It's fun. I don't think it's as good as I hoped it would be, because I thought you got to pick from all 6 options, and I'm an idiot, and you have to discover 3. So it's less good than I expected when I ended up playing it, but I think it's okay. It has powerful options, right? Like you usually have something powerful to do.
I see.
Yeah, so like there's Drain Soul, which is running even lock, and that does the same thing, and it's 2 mana, right? But it does like the similar thing, but it's deal 3 damage and it's lifesteal.
Back in the day, we were running the health giant, whatever it was called. That every time your life total changed, it would reduce the cost. Flesh giant. Yeah. What I call it, health giant. Oh my god.
Back in my day, we ran the health giant.
Uphill both ways in the snow.
Backwards. That's right. Yeah. And, all right, here's the dev comment. Warlock is one of the weakest classes in the game right now, so we're giving it some buffs to its new fatigue package. We're also bumping up Siphon Still, which we think should help the class a little more generally. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Here's Rogue. Record Scratcher. Previously, it was a 3-mana 2/2. Now it is a 3-mana 3/2. Fiery Wind Axe. Death Rattle. Refresh 1 mana crystal. Play combo cards while equipped to improve.
This does nothing.
No, it doesn't. Although, like, it was unplayable before, and at least it has decent stat line now. But
this does nothing.
I agree. Well, in Wild in particular,
people were playing this for the effect, and the effect is unchanged. So the attack is like, hey, that's nice. This does nothing.
Yeah, sorry, refresh 1 mana crystal. I have to make sure I do the thing. I gotta time it, and I get a 1, whatever. I get 1 extra.
You're trying to change it for standard to be like, hey, this is a good tempo weapon plus upside, and away from like, hey, this is a combo enabler. People are going to use it in Wild as a combo enabler, but it's not good enough. So
no, I mean, I'd rather just either make a big Kingsbane or do something more aggressive than
I've watched so many people trip over the Rogue. It's insane. It's insane. When it works, it's great, but it doesn't work like 60% of the time. So move on. Yeah.
So MC Blingtron, I have not had a chance to play it yet, but the effect is so cool. Previously, it was a 5-mana 3/4. Now it's a 5. Now it's a 5-mana 5/5. Battlecry. Both players equipped 1/2 microphones. Your opponents increases all damage they take by 1. So you know that priest card, right? What is it, a 1/3 or whatever that says everything is, you take it extra damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's that.
Yep.
I think this is kind of neat.
If your opponent breaks it, they no longer have it.
Yeah.
This offends me from the synergy thing. Like, this is the same thing as like making news off 9. It's like all the old gods are 10 mana. What do you mean? We're changing the stats on Blingtron from a 3/4. But that being said, it does make it a much better tempo card. Like, it vastly improves the card. We will never play this in Wild unless you're achievement hunting.
No, exactly. I mean, it's kind of cool that if you have a board already, it's just a buff to your board, basically, at that point.
I would have preferred it at like keep it at a 3/4, but make it 3 mana. Then maybe you could play it in the combo deck or something, or an aggro deck even. But for 5 mana 5/5, it's too slow. I don't know. You get kooky and play it in your Odd Rogue deck.
I mean, for the achievement, I'm going to play it in Pirate Rogue.
Yeah, like you could. There's way better options, but I mean, you could.
Because I've got to kill somebody with my own microphone, so like that's gonna happen. But yeah, it's not. You could also play like
something good.
Leroy.
Yeah.
you could play another non-pirate that's more in line with what
Leroy has the guaranteed 6 damage, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is like, if you have a board, maybe you can do a couple extra damage.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
All right. Here's Priest. Here's.
What? I can't believe they buffed this card.
This card's not.
This is crazy. So, Holy Nova, this card that's been in the game forever, that's always cost, I mean, at least to my knowledge, 4 mana. It's deal 2 damage to all enemies, restore 2 health to all friendly characters, has now been reduced to 3 mana. Like, that is crazy. Like, I think like that is nuts, especially maybe in standard if they're going with this overheal thing.
Oh,
right?
yeah, no, that's the whole reason why they're pushing it, I think. That's the whole reason why they changed it. And you'll notice it doesn't go face anymore. It only affects enemy minions, but you are often only playing it for that effect anyway. So
this is not like an aggressive priest card. It never has been. So it not going face isn't a big deal, right? So, like this is like anti-aggro sort of card, right? Like a control tool. So who cares if it doesn't go face?
This is my opponent has played Fillet Fighter and gotten Parachute Brigand, and pulled patches.
Yeah.
And I play Zephon too. This is going to come up. And this is going to help Does this also heal all friendly characters, right?
Yeah. So
I'm
whatever
gonna
you have
heal
on
up
board
for
and your
2.
face.
I'm going to heal up for 2 as well as wipe their board. As well as, listen, if let's say they drop Jolly Roger, they don't take out my Zeph, I trade in, I also am going to heal up the Zeph on that occasion. So, like, that's it's
too bad it doesn't kill the Jolly Roger, though. But
yeah, listen, I think 3 would be too strong for a 3-mana Holy Nova. Like, we don't need...
Oh, no. I'm just saying Jolly Roger's too much health.
Oh, no. So, like, it's funny. Like, what they've done with several recent buffs is they've made Zeph so much better, and they've made him better in an interesting way. On 2 mana going into 3 mana, you actually have, like, 3 decent AoE options that could be offered based on conditions. And I'm not entirely sure what those conditions are. I'm going to have to keep stress testing them. But you've got Lightning Storm, which is now officially deal 3 to everything, overload 1. You've got Consecration, which is deal 2 to everything. Well, sorry, deal 2 to all enemies. And put 2 face. And you've got now Holy Nova, which will also heal your face for 2. So I'm wondering how often like Lightning Storm is actually going to be offered, where it's a better option than Holy Nova, or it's a better option than Hellfire even, which is another 3-mana card that Zeph can offer, which deals 3 to the whole board and 3 to yourself.
Does Hellfire, like, will it take into account whether you... Like, Zeph isn't smart enough to know if you have a board or not, right?
No, it reads the whole board state.
So, like, it would... So, in that case, something like Holy Nova or Consecration, depending on how much health the opponent's minions have, it should pick that if it's a bunch of 2 health stuff over Hellfire instead of
Yes.
destroying your whole board, right?
Yes, it will. It will. And it's funny because I've actually been offered Hellfire and Lightning Storm at the same time by Zeph recently, which was interesting because, again, I'm playing Zeph in a Reno deck. So it's just like, okay, 1 overloads me so that I can't play Reno on curve necessarily because I'm probably playing Zeph on 5 to answer a board with 3 mana.
Yeah.
Versus, let me play Hellfire, take a little bit more damage now, and play my Reno on curve if I have Reno, or if I worry about top decking Reno, but then I'm taking 3 more damage and I'm playing against, a Pirate Rogue, and it depends on what my health total is. So it's like, there's some really, there's a really funny... I hadn't even realized it now until I started saying this, but like there's some really interesting 3-mana options Zeph has now, where everything's gotten knocked down, and heck, you can even throw in the 3-mana options. You could even throw in something that sounds kind of goofy, like Fan of Knives, because I know it costs 2, but you're never playing Zeph on 1 to deal with 2, right? Well, maybe you do, but for the most part, it's like you're playing Zeph on 2 to answer a board on 3, and everything has 1 health. Let me just pick Fan of Knives, and I'll have a mana to float next turn. Maybe I have something to do with that mana. So, this just goes right back into the arsenal of let's buff Zeph and give him, another way to clear board on 3, which is I'm kind of okay with it. It keeps him relevant in things and gives Reno decks a way to kind of keep pace. I want to see variety in Wild, and this is the way that you do that.
That's why I really like this buff. There's also the fact that historically priests, kind of tick a lot of people off. So this might do that as well, and people are just hard running it. So there's that side of it too. But for Zeph, this is a win for sure.
Very good card.
All right, what do we have next?
Druid.
Yeah,
they really didn't need to buff Druid stuff. Not that these really make a big difference, right? But first up is Kiri, Chosen of Elune. This is a 3-mana 2/2 legendary. Battlecry, add a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse to your hand. I remember when this came out and we were like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then nobody ever played it. It used to be 4 mana and now it's 3. Okay.
Cool. Does the same thing. You can do it quicker.
It will never be played.
We don't.
No, because
we don't play it.
No, the Druid stuff that we're doing is like cheating mana or cheating giant minions or doing armor stuff or combo stuff or super swarmy aggro. and this is none of those. So I don't really think it makes a big difference.
The nerfed Twig will see more play than this.
Yes.
All right, well, let's move on then. Next one up is Death Blossom Womper. Death Blossom Womper. Okay. Previously, it was 6 mana, 7/6. Now it is 5 mana, 6/5. Battlecry, draw a Death Rattle minion and gain its Death Rattle. I didn't even know this was a card. I feel a little bit bad.
Corbett is keeping special attention on this. He thinks that this can get cracked in half.
It can. I think we played a ton of that legendary card in the Theorycraft event.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And this at 5 is probably a build around, but there's some nutty stuff that you can do. I think we never really went too all in on the Druid Death Rattle stuff because all of the other crazy mana cheat combo stuff was just way
so much. You can do better things with Druid, right?
This is fun though. I mean, I like it.
And again, like the Druid location. Like I remember people joking around, just like, "Oh yeah, you run the Druid location, and then you drop Shellfish, and then you hit Shellfish with the location, and then you naturalize the Shellfish," and people are like, "Shut up! Don't put that into the universe." And now that's like a decent portion of like gold and silver MMR are just like mill druids goofing around.
It is, and I will say, especially for the more control-y type decks, your Reno decks, or heaven forbid you're playing Blood Death Knight, the mill package is brutal. Due process, like they play the what is it? Solar Eclipse is the one that does it twice, or is it Lunar Eclipse? I always get them confused, but like.
One of the two.
So you play that and then due process, and now each person's drawing 2 every time, and then you play some Jade stuff to shuffle your Jades back in, and you can get run over because the Druid has so much armor gain that they just absorb it.
Yeah, but like I like even if they print like a future Death Rattle that's kind of cracked, like what if this draws, let's say, one of the horsemen, right? Like this draws your first horseman, and then you trigger its Death Rattle, and now you've got the 5/6 just sort of sitting out there, while you also have the horseman in your hand, while you also have the horseman in the deck, and you're just sort of spamming horsies until the opponent dies. Like I can see it.
Oh, this is
a slow game plan, but like, you know, there are other Death Rattles that are very strong that they balance around. Even give this like a couple years time where they're not balancing around this card anymore, and they're just like, here's this really strong Death Rattle we're going to give Druid.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't have to worry about it because it's a Death Rattle, not a Battle Cry. Well, this can turn it kind of into a Battle Cry in a way.
This will be on the watch list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's not broken yet. It'll give it a little bit of time, and it'll probably get there. Somebody will find a thing, or it'll turn into, like, there will be a combo. The next set will be coming out, and we'll be like, oh no, did you guys forget about that Death Blossom Womper? Like, oh no.
The what?
You ever look at one of these cards and be like, that's not a real card, that's a fan-made card.
A what?
Whoa, Womper. Here's the dev comment. Druid is one of the classes that has seen a lot of new Festival of Legends cards see play, and we're pretty happy with where its expansion set has landed. We're taking this opportunity to set a higher bar for the core set and to encourage more of the cool Death Rattle support the class got from Murder at Caplananthria. Castle. I'm trying to suck on a throat lozenge to make my throat hurt less, and it's making me talk funny. I feel like I have a lisp. Yeah, you could play it with the location or something else, I suppose. I don't know that it's quite there yet, but I don't think I'm mentally prepared to look at Druid cards. I've just seen so much Druid lately. I'm like, oh, take it away.
No, we can't do that.
We can't do that. Well, we have some lists here to talk about. I know we've been at it for a little while, so let's switch over to these lists that SchmoopieDaddy brought to show us, because these are kind of fun. So my question was, all right, so are we done? Like, is Druidstone done? Is it safe to go back into Wild? Can we play like real decks again and have fun? And what should we play? And so there's a collection of decks here. The first is this Menagerie Warrior deck by Get Me Out.
I would have saved this for last.
Oh, let's save it for last then.
But let's go super spicy red. No. Let's go super spicy red off the bat. This has the most.
We can't go back.
Buffed cards. We can't go back now. Let's go for it. It's a Menagerie. it's a Menagerie Warrior that's got some familiar names with it. It's got your Town Criers to pull your rush minions, but it's primarily a pirate early game. So think like Mistake, Exhaust First Mate, Parachute Brigands. Let's pull patches from our deck, which transitions into let's cheat out a rush minion if we can. Or let's stick the 3-mana Mech Pirate with our weapon and swing face, draw cards. The armor is fine, but let's draw cards, get a big hand, buff it up, and just keep stat dumping.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, with Power Slider, which we talked about earlier, which has been buffed, right? You know how it says for every minion type, right?
Yes.
Will if you've played a pirate and then you've played an amalgam, is an amalgam a separate minion type?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is two buffs, even though it's still a pirate, but
here's what's so confusing to me. And I'm still trying to figure it out with the deck. I don't know how it's tracking it. I don't know if it's counting amalgam randomly as it's always a different minion type, or whether or not statistically I'm just most likely to hit a different minion type because there are so many minion types to choose from.
Yeah, because what if you had a deck that had every minion type and then you played an amalgam? Would it then not count? Or is an amalgam its own minion type? I don't know.
But the thing is you'll play multiple amalgams and the ticker will keep going up. Now, statistically speaking, that should always happen, but I haven't noticed or tracked carefully enough if that always happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a pirate. We're going to play the Mistake. I'm going to play my mech. Did it count my amalgam as a mech? Or did it count my amalgam as, was it a placeholder? Was it okay, this is definitely a new minion type, but we don't know where it goes yet? That'd be the most sophisticated way to go about doing it. The only minion type I think this is missing, or the two minion types it's missing, 3. Quillbore Naga and Murlocs. So, you have a lot of room for just fill-in. But the cute things that this does, right? So the power sliders, like we were talking about, they're coming down turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, and later as real thick babies. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Ringmaster Watley, you go play in the corner. Where adults are talking. Adults are talking, Ringmaster Watley. You just skitter off now.
You didn't make the cut.
You made the cut, my Reno Pirate Warrior. We'll always have that moment. Now, scoot. But Voon in this deck is nutty because stuff like Lotheb's the only undead, so you're always copying Lotheb unless an amalgam counts as an undead to slam on down. I have yet to play the one amalgam banned in Anger in Wild, which leads me to believe it may be cuttable. I don't know. And if it is, what would you play in its stead? I'm not sure. Something more with the theme. I've been looking at maybe sticking Pack Mule. No, not Ringmaster Watley. Get out.
For the audio listeners, Nate seems to really miss Ringmaster Watley, and he's hovering the whole screen with a giant version of Ringmaster Watley.
He's kind of wiggling around the screen without actually covering the list, just being obnoxious enough. But I'm happy. Listen, we've got good cards in here. I'm happy we get to play with Sword Eaters again. Sword Eater is a premium card.
That's a good card.
It is a good card.
And
that is value.
and you can buff it. And again, another neat thing about Voon is like you equipped Ringmaster's Baton, and you swing, and then you drop Voon, and now all your buffed minions are now multiplied. So it's cute. It's a cute list. It does a great stat dump thing early. It has the pirate opener. It challenges for board. The problem I'm finding is like once it loses board, it loses hard. So you have to really fight for board early, and you have to be prepared to like make suboptimal plays to make sure that you get there. I want to say this list is like 6-2 from what I've played of it. That's like not bad.
I'm gonna say that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Like the times it pops off, it pops off. The times you lose feel really bad.
I will say Ringmaster's Baton was always like pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just no home, right? And this is a home now. And there's a lot of weapons in here to make to take advantage of the Mech Pirate. And this is Get Me Out's work once again. Like it's worth saying that like he did a nice job on this, and he climbed with it on stream. He went 11-6 with it and got back some ranks. So like if it's solidly tier 3, we would take that for Warrior. Like that's a win. That's a gold star.
Yeah.
Good job, Warrior. So
I mean, I think it's really cool that Meowth has been playing this list and experimenting, especially with that buff. Like, why not? And if I can see a Warrior in Wild, I am happy. So I'll give it a shot.
All right. What do we have next?
we're moving to good decks now.
Questionable.
Okay. Of the next 2 decks, okay, stop. The next 2 decks that I chose to feature to you guys tonight, there are 2 Questline versions. I think, for my money, the best deck in the format right now is some form of Questline Druid. Whether it is the face version that is just going all in on the quest line and like hero damage and just going face, or whether it's something that looks a little bit more like this, which is a kind of hybrid version of something akin to what they were doing in Standard towards the end of last rotation, where they are making... You know, they're basically doing the quest line, they're gaining armor. It's a survival tool with the ultimate end being, hey, let's do some Bran Astalor stuff. That seems to be an interesting option that I would look at. I don't know yet. Stats are out. The meta is what is it, nascent? It has just been born. We have to learn more from it. But I think that the straight old bonk Druid is strong. A version like this, which has a little bit more long game, while still has the package of... And we got some really nutty cards this expansion. We got Rake. We got the Harmonic Druid attack spell. We got Spread the Word. We got kind of a mini draw package alongside of Aquatic Form and a Moonlit Guidance, to kind of fill this deck out so that the quest line isn't so out of place and it's more of a backbone than just sort of like, you know, a square hole for a round peg. So it's either this version is going to be good, or even the next list that we have for you tonight, which is a little bit more facey.
I like face.
It's basically like a Corb Meowth list that I cut 2 cards. I did not like the Cool Cats, and so I put Park Panthers in there instead, because I was sick of losing to just garbage little taunts. I was sick of losing to Taunt Totem. I was sick of losing to things like that, and you don't always want to play Park Panther from hand, but when you do, you're glad. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the situations where it's just like, okay, I would really like to take care of this Taunt Totem with my Rake, or I'd like to take care of it with an Ironbeak Owl, which it's shocking how quickly those things get cut down to 0.
Umbral Owl, that one?
Which one?
Umbral? Yeah, Umbral Owl. Ironbeak Owl's a 2/1 with silence. Yeah.
Ironbeak is, I've been playing too much Classic. I've been playing too much. I'm getting the Umbral Owl gets reduced down to 0 incredibly fast.
Yeah.
But like barring that, I don't have any one of those things. I just liked having Park Panther as yet another option that just like, hey, here's how I could possibly kind of play for board, but largely ignore you while I go face. And so this version is mostly just like, let's just go face. Let's race, baby. The quest line is 1 mana, gain 10 armor, and draw a card. And with the added benefit of the synergized draw engine of Spread the Word, Aquatic Form, Moonlit Guidance, a lot of things cost 0 in this deck, right? Like the I kept track of it. I had a game tonight where I was on turn 7 and I had 11 cards left in my deck, and my Pirate Rogue opponent had 20. Like
wow.
There's moments where it's just like, oh, let me play this and let me play this and let me play this. It's almost like a miracle-esque element because there's so many things that cost 0 and or especially when guidance gets involved. It's like it's like you can start chaining things together and just sort of not finding the cards that you need to win, but more along the lines of I'm filtering my deck so that my top decks are better.
It's such a low curve. There are 6 0 mana cards. There are 8 1 mana cards. 4 2 mana cards. Like it's so low to the ground. It's insane.
And look at the top end. The 8 mana cards should be free, right? Your keepers, your Crypt Keepers should be free because of armor.
Right.
Your Umbral Owls can be free because of the amount of spells you play. You play a ton of spells. These get cheap quick. The Spread the Words should be free from attack. Like your most expensive cards, honestly, most of the time are the Park Panthers and Floop.
Wow.
Which is a pretty good I'm cringing when I'm playing a Park Panther for 4.
Floop is like an incredibly versatile card as well. I found when I was playing the Broken deck, because like it could be another Tutor if you want, it could be another Umbral Owl, it could be another Crypt Keeper, it could be another Guff, right? When you finish off the quest line, like it really can have a lot of different uses here.
Yeah, no, and again, this deck is mostly going to ignore what you're doing and play a little bit more solitaire and just go face and say, oh, listen, whatever you're doing, I'm going to complete the quest line so that I can drop Guff on 5, and then I'm going to keep hitting you in the face forever.
Oh, this is the one that you've been playing with your kids, right? Aggro noob.
Exactly.
I love it.
That's just like, okay, I might craft this for Shmoopie Mommy. I really might. Like this is the kind of deck where it's just kind of like, okay, linear game plan, but it's fun because you play a lot of cards when you're doing it. So I could see this even being very popular once people figure out that this is good. But it's polarizing because like it doesn't like the keyword taunt. If you keep throwing taunts at it, you are going to jam it up.
Yeah, but realistically, like there's not a lot of decks running a lot of taunt. I guess
we aren't featuring Even Shaman tonight because it's like, who needs another list of Even Shaman? But there's an example of a very good deck that keeps like printing out even like taunts, right?
Yeah. Well, and you'll still see like your big priest, your Reno priest, and your Reno warlocks and that sort of thing that will have some taunts and lifesteal and stuff like that. But this seems relatively fast, and when they're getting like the quest completion with a Guff and a ton of armor and a ton of attack that quickly, it kind of snowballs.
Yeah, I ratted a Guff tonight, and I playing Even Warrior, right, and I just died. Like they didn't even get the quest line off. I just died to, or it wasn't tonight. It was last night. I'm mixing up my Even Warrior games, but it was just like, yay, I've done it. They haven't.
No one has ever said that sentence in their life. I'm mixing up my Even Warrior games because no one's ever played Even Warrior.
I was like trying to sit here and think about like what does it do with one? Like what is Even Warrior?
It blows up stuff forever and plays Kazaku-san. Don't judge me. Anyway, this is One of those two decks is the broke deck. Either the Astlore version or the Faced version. You're going to see them get refined further. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a good Druid deck that still uses Twig. But I'm not featuring one tonight because that just got nerfed. I haven't got enough. I haven't heard enough about it for me to be confident that it would be good.
Yeah.
I feel like the Menagerie deck is decent. I think you can definitely hit Legend with it.
The Menagerie deck looks legitimately fun. I will say that. That one looks
These
great.
two are rock solid. I'm sure of it.
Well, I'm excited about this next one. This reminds me of like the Copper Hunter deck with like a really spicy endgame here. Like an OTK spicy endgame here.
Yeah. So them buffing that last spell, the legendary spell, Stranglethorn's Heart to 8 mana means you're not waiting until turn 10 to maybe blow the opponent away. I saw so many streams where people were saying, well, I mean, my opponent's dead before turn 10. My opponent's dead before turn 10. I'm never playing the spell. This deck, you play the spell. And what's neat about it is it's bringing back any beast that died this game that costs 5 or more, correct?
Well, so you're looking at Tundra Rhino, right? Plus your Shadehounds and your Hydralodons.
Yeah.
And now they can all have charge because the Tundra Rhino.
So I'm not being real stingy with my Tundra Rhinos or my Shadehounds anymore.
You don't have to be, because they can come back.
Yeah, you're not saving them for optimal value. You could just get them back later when you want.
Well, and there's
Not
no...
for nothing. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's no real downside to running the Stranglethorn Heart because, like we talked about earlier, it has the tradable. So we don't care if we draw it early. We just ship it off. I like that, where before you really had to be very careful with your, I don't know if you call them combo pieces or whatever, but your Tundra Rhinos, because you had to try to save it to do as much damage in one turn as possible and try to OTK before they could stabilize or board clear or whatever. Now you can be a little bit less judicious with those minions.
And it's going to lead to some patterns of play where you're going to play those like key power cards in a situation where your opponent does not have an answer for it. And you might have held it back in previous times, but now you won't have to.
Yeah.
Now you can just like let it off the chain and be like, yeah, I'm going to tempo this uninfused Shadehound. What are you going to do? And maybe they don't clear it. And if they don't clear it, now you're getting value from it. And like it makes the deck so much better. I will say one of the cards that is weaker than it was in the past is the Hero Tavish card, because now that it has exited standard, it has all the secrets in its pool that were standard legal in its lifetime, which means you're getting like really suspect stuff like upgraded Snake Trap, which nobody wants. Upgraded like Open the Cages, which sometimes people want, but like it's very niche. Upgraded, what's the one where it Pack Tactics? Like it has some bad hits to it when 90% of the time you're running Tavish because you're like, okay, I need the upgraded Explosive Trap. I need this like 3 AoE coming down the pipe. And that's less consistent now. Don't be shocked if Tavish is cut from the list entirely.
It could be. I don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's super core to me.
It's just nice, right?
Like, this is how you beat Pirate Rogues: is that you drop this on 6 and you win.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is how you beat Quest Mages: you drop this on whenever, and then you set it up so that they can't attack your face or they die. He might have his days numbered in the list.
I mean, it's kind of like when like Rexar was included in a lot of things. Like it was like press for emergency sort of situation.
It's a value engine, and at some point, right, your opponent can only clear so many things before it's like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, and you really are playing him for the hero power is fine. The hero power is decent, but like it's mostly the impact that the secrets have immediately has been what it's become, the reason why you run Tavish. So the hero power is a great benefit. Don't get me wrong, but like I'm playing him on 6 against Pirate Rogues. I want upgraded explosive track to clear their board, heal me for 5, and I'm because I gain the 5 armor from equipping him, and I'm going from there. So, but no, it's decent.
Yeah, I like this one. All right, we've got one last list to look at. This looks, here's some spice. We save the spicy thing for the last. Guess who's back? Yeah,
Less spicy than Mech Mage.
Marty's magnificent Mech Mage.
This is NHL fans' magnificent Mech Mage, which he high rolled me with. I actually got rid of. I was playing Even Shaman. I actually got rid of the shark and like sort of cleared the shark board into a manageable position, and then he built a gigantic security and automatron, and I died.
Did this naturally occur on ladder, or were you guys just like playing for fun?
We were playing THL.
Okay.
I stole his THL list because he brought it to THL, and he usually brings good decks to THL. The new cards that Mech Mage actually got was the frequency oscillator, the 1-drop that makes your next mech cost 1 less. There's some pretty funky, weird things you can do with this in Mech Warper, where like based on order of operations, you can cheat additional mana or pay for stuff when you normally wouldn't want to pay for stuff, and like, hey, now this is free. So that's not an insignificant change, and not only that, it's an effect that does linger after the turn you play it. So you play it, and now next turn the first mech you play costs 1 less. So it's a decent amount of mana cheat. It's not as permanent as the Galvanizer. It's not as strong as the Mech Warper, but it's like almost feels like another copy of those. And because of that, it still facilitates some pretty gross like shark turns and stuff like that. But yeah, Mech Mage might have been the 5th best deck, again, according to people like Corbett, before the buffs we had. Just because it lives and dies in the first board it makes, and like not a whole lot of people can take a mecha shark to the face and
No, this was crazy. When I did my legend run with the broken Druid deck, like I lost to this. I don't know if it was this version, but very similar, because Galvanizer, Mech Warper, Shark, Security Automaton, like you just get a giant board in 1 turn that's then shooting little missiles at you also. And it happens so early in the game. It's like, wow, I don't think I can deal with it. I think I was dead on turn 4. Maybe turn 5. Yeah, it was like, it's so fast.
You can't? Oh, okay. Sounds good. And again, if the best deck is Questline Druid, and Questline Druid doesn't like taunt, this runs a decent amount of taunt. Not a lot of taunt.
Hello.
Well, yeah, hello. Also, I think in this list, does this list have the newly buffed 3-mana guy? There's the 3-mana 2/5 taunt that they recently buffed. It used to be
we've got at 3 mana. We've got Mecha Shark, Gorilla Bot, and Seafloor Gateway.
Okay, so you could probably swap out the Gorilla Bots, in my opinion, for something like what's that 3-mana 1/5 guy with where it used to be a 1/5. Now he's a 2/5 taunt.
The Frame Bot?
Not Frame Bot. No. Let me look it up. Bronze Gatekeeper, Thonson, thank you. Right? He's bailing us out. Bronze Gatekeeper got buffed as a part of the core set. And so now Bronze Gatekeeper is sneaking his way into lists because like 5's a lot of health to get through, just playing him on his own. And if you attach him to something, like that's something. And so I think you're going to see the meta prioritize taunt if Questline Druid is the big bad. And if Questline Druid is the big bad and you're prioritizing taunt, there he is. There's the boy. Yes, you belong in this list, Bronze Gatekeeper. You can go in. Nate already has you in gold. He already has you in gold. Go in. Good boy. because we're going to prioritize taunt, that's where I think stuff like goofy stuff like Menagerie Warrior or goofy stuff that's like just like a taunt priority decks are going to get some cheap wins. Mech Paladin are going to get some cheap wins against Questline Druids because like you're just not going to be able to like bust through if you're the full face version. If you are not the full face version and you're running Ask the Lore, Brand combo, that's a different kettle of sharks. So like that's where I'm kind of at in the meta. Like I don't know where it's going to jump, and I don't know what the best is going to be. But I think some form of Questline Druid will be best. So if you really want to be playing the best of the best, that's probably the place to start. If you want an Old Faithful, probably Even Shaman, but I'll be damned if I throw another Even Shaman code at you. Like it's not
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. It didn't get any new cards. Hydra's been playing the same one. I don't know, since his kid was a zygote. So like it's just
my first game with it, according to my HS replay, was like almost 800 days ago.
Yeah,
So
like
it's
list unchanged. It works fine. Don't worry about it. Mech Mage is kind of like the new back in fashion classic look as far as just like, hey, let's play a deck that was good and got some new parts and is decent. And then if you want to go super, super, super spicy, I think that Menagerie Warrior has some legs. It's definitely going to be fun. Your mileage may vary, but you'll have a good time. And it does powerful wild stuff. And you'll be playing Warrior. So like nobody will know what you're up to. So
cool. Well, is that the end of our lists that we have? I guess it is, isn't it?
I hope it didn't go too long.
No, it's good. It's good.
Well, how about we touch quickly on the listener series?
Yeah, I'll cover it very quickly. Suffice to say, we are in top 4 now in our listener series. For those of you not familiar, the Born to be Wild listener series is a weekly Wild Hearthstone tournament series. We typically host it a new tournament series every time there's an expansion. This series is based around the March of the Lich King. We're currently in top 4, so we're right towards the very end. Tonight was going to be top 4, and we ended up postponing this week by 1 week because we got news that there were nerfs and buffs and didn't want to force the competitors, especially at this stage and in top 4, to try to build decks and compete, knowing that deck submissions are due on Wednesday night, and we knew that the nerfs and buffs were coming out on Thursday, and it just is not right to force people to submit decks knowing that they're all going to have to change the next day. So we postponed it by a week. So we'll host top 4 next week after next week's show. But it is really exciting. If you haven't watched any of the matches, if you go to our website, again, borntobewildhs.com, all of the streamed matches, we've streamed them, we've cast them. There's all overlays, kind of like esports style. They're all up on YouTube. They're all up on our website. You can check them out. They're really fun. So in the top 4, it's pretty exciting. We've got our own NHL NJ1 fan, right? SchmoopieDaddy, you're in top 4, yeah? No way. Who else is Staz? I know Stazari is. Hold on, let me check. I've been
Staz and Doc Bomb.
I've been sick. You have to pardon
Doc Bomb
me.
took me out last week in a blaze of glory.
Oh, it's Kenray is the other one.
Yeah, I did not stand a chance.
Kenray's like an old faithful. Kenray's always around.
Kenray, Dr. BUMD, NHL NJ Fan 1, and Stazari. So yeah, no. We've got some crazy competition here. It's going to be really great. Kenray, I think, usually makes it to the finals, right? These are all phenomenal players. Dr. BUMD, not only is a good friend of ours, but was last season's champion. And
you don't say.
And of course, we're good friends with all these folks, and I'm really excited to see these games. We've gotten to cast 2 matches with Staz so far that were both phenomenal as well. And these are just all really great competitors. I'm really excited to see what they come up with, and really looking forward to it. It's been a fun season. I wish that we would have started it earlier, but life kind of got in the way. So the current plan is to take next expansion off, build some infrastructure on the back end to make things a little bit more robust, and then have stuff kind of like ready to go when the following expansion drops. So if you haven't played and you're interested in playing, check out what we've done so far up on YouTube or up on our website. And you're welcome to participate in the following one. They are free to participate in. There are prizes for the top 4, and they're super fun. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say, but I'm looking forward to these top 4 coming up next week.
Agreed. Always a great time with the listener series. Super exciting when it comes down to the end. Nobody knows who's going to win it. It could be anybody. I love it, and I'm looking forward to checking out those games.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
But, and now, unrelated advice with SchmoopieDaddy. All right. Gonna put you on the spot. All right. Okay. All right.
Sure.
Unrehearsed. I did not ask SchmoopieDaddy this question.
My body's prepared.
Your body's prepared. No goats will be hurt or licked in the answering of this question. Actually, I'm gonna tap into the fact that SchmoopieDaddy here teaches for a living. All right. So I have a child. Children, they go to school, right? And SchmoopieDaddy teaches.
In
so
theory.
We've got things, going on there that link together. Now, when my son was younger, I noticed a thing with kids because, they're distracted by everything, that you pick them up after school and you say, like, hey, what'd you learn? Right? Like
stuff.
Like stuff, like no idea, right?
How was your day?
So,
Good.
Good. What did you do?
Stuff.
And
I don't know. Don't remember.
Right? We played gym. We did gym. Right? Like,
By the way,
we went outside at a juice box. All right.
By the way, physical education instructors love it when you say you play gym.
I bet they
their
do.
favorite thing
I bet
ever.
they do.
At parties, if you ever meet a PE teacher, say that. Oh yeah, my kid loves gym. My kid loves playing gym. That's the best part. They flock to that. That's like, yeah.
Well, you could tell your friend that's the gym teacher about that, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
Everybody calls it gym. Yeah.
we started doing a thing when my son was in, I don't know, maybe grade 2 or whatever, and I call it the 3 things. Right? So after school, this is torturous for him. After school, when I pick him up, he has to tell me 3 things he did that day. Right? Because there's always like, gym. Right? So we've been doing the 3 things. And he still says gym. All right? He is 14 years old. He's going into grade 9, all right, next year, and he still says gym. So,
Jim's just blank space on the bingo chart. He's just said, all right. I can plug in gym, and then it's just 2 things.
I don't know.
Stuff I got 2 things
and gym.
He's got gym every other day. It doesn't matter. During his lunch period, he's going to gym so that he can use it as the blank bingo space.
Yeah. And then, okay, so now he's in his language arts, English class, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
He's been doing creative writing, right? So he's been writing the same book all year, okay? Right? He's writing this book about this mafia boss, right? And okay. he's been writing it all year. So every day I get gym, and then I get I wrote another paragraph in my book, right? And so this is getting quite stagnant. And then he also
he's
said
gonna be 25. He's still gonna be writing this book, but he's just like, I promise, Dad. Like,
so
I'll make
he's
enough
gonna be
rent
writing the book in your basement.
yeah. So now he only has to say one thing because he's got gym and he's got the story he's writing in creative writing, in his English class. Right. So basically, I that was a bit of a backstory. I'm looking for either ways I can or his teachers can help him maybe be more interested or engaged in what he's actually learning. Because I swear this kid doesn't take science or social studies, right? Because there's never like, I learned what a nucleus is. Like, that has not happened, right? Like, I learned You know, like atoms, protons, neutrons, like that. I've not heard that. Right. So
yeah, I'd say
the engagement and basically it's the engagement is what I'm asking. How can I encourage that or talk to his teachers about encouraging that?
it's not something that can just like you can just sort of say as a parent, just like, hey, engage my kid. Like the kid's either going to be engaged, the kid's not going to be engaged. But as a professional in the practice, you can go about engagement in a couple different ways. Not every teacher's the same, and not every teacher's going to be able to do the same technique of engagement as the ones that I outline now. Like I'm blessed in that I teach physics, and physics can be very physical, and just by its definition, when we're doing the physical stuff, I can get to a wider range of audience than, let's say, if I was just, let's say, only doing math, right? Because like if it's just mathematical, I'm going to lose a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But when we're making paper airplanes and we're changing up the designs and we're doing an easy day and an intermediate day and a hard day and an unusual day where we make like a flying ring or we make something that looks like a helicopter and like we're saying, well, how does that work? Right? Or we have little discussions about that. That can be engaging. When the material or the subject matter isn't engaging, I have to be engaging, which means that I have to, on some plane, somehow relate to the average teenager, right? I have to become based. I have to somehow become poggers. So
we were talking about the terminology the other day. Remember, my kid comes home and what did he say? Oh, that lunch was bossin'. I was like, what?
Bossin'.
or I'm probably not. What was it? You know what? No, I'm gonna go find out. And I'll report back while you say your thing. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted, but
you can't be ratchet, Nate. Okay, like that's just not. It's not acceptable.
Oh, it's bussin'. It's bussin'. That's what it is.
Bussin'. Yeah, bussin'. Bussin's a Zoomer thing.
Bussin'.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
It's really dumb.
It's a
brah. You bussin', brah.
Anyway, you try to find part of yourself in the student and make a connection that way, right? And like identify or relate in some way. Like if you don't like people, do not become a teacher. I have students that where they say, Mr. SchmoopieDaddy, I want to become a teacher.
Mr. Daddy.
I do. For the record, since we have a lawyer on this program, I do not ask my students to call me daddy. There are students who say, Mr. SchmoopieDaddy, like I want to become a teacher. And my first question is always, do you like people? And when they say no, I'm like, do something else. Because I deal with everything from I deal with big ones, right? I deal by the time they reach me, they're juniors and seniors, they're almost real people. I tell them, you're almost a real person.
See, that's why this makes sense to ask you this question, because my son he's starting high school next year, which is
he's going to be an uncouth freshman. He's going to be somewhat subhuman. Because he knows more than he should, but the instincts are not there for self-preservation or cleanliness. So like that requires a little bit of like house training in the high school setting. But anyway, as a junior or senior, I see them, and they're almost real people. Like I can almost see what like the type of person they will eventually become when they're sitting in their seat, and let's say they're eating yogurt with a fork, and I'm saying,
oh no.
I'm saying, have you thought this one through? And they're like, yeah, but they haven't. They're just sort of answering on instinct. And then they have they're leaning back in their seat and their yogurt cup is here and they're eating with the fork like this.
Over their clothes.
And they're like, Mr. SchmoopieDaddy, can I go to the bathroom to clean up? Because I had an accident while I was eating my yogurt. It's like, bro, yeah, sure. You do.
While wearing a black shirt, of course.
What are you telling me? I don't know. I don't know. Can you?
you try to find, for the most part, like, again, if you know the subject matter is not going to be interesting, you try to identify with them and make them engage that way. But also, I think it mostly comes from, especially me, again, being in high school, being a subject matter teacher. If you love what you do, and you show enthusiasm for the topic, it's infectious. And I would even go over the top with it. I would be a gigantic nerd about it. I do a 2-liter water bottle rocket lab at the end of the year that I will dress up in tinfoil and an astronaut hat.
I would pay to see this.
Because
next week on Born to Be Wild.
I've done this multiple years. And the thing is like, if you do this and you just play it off like I am the biggest freaking nerd, I know it, I don't care, I'm gonna own it. They may or may not want to admit that they respect it, but if you do it in a charismatic way where it's just like, yeah, I don't know, that guy's weird, I don't want to I'm just gonna brush him off. If you're someone that they like and respect and you do it, it gives them room to enjoy the subject matter more.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. When I was in high school, I had this teacher who we were all sitting in the classroom. This was physics, so maybe you can relate. We're sitting in the classroom. Where's our teacher? Where's our teacher? He comes busting in the door. This guy, he had this charismatic attitude. He was a goofball. He comes running in. He has an extension cord tied through his belt loops and then hanging off the back from his behind like a tail is the rest of the extension cord. He comes running in. He starts spinning in a circle. Right? The extension cord is following him in this helical motion. And he's making this silly face. And we're laughing, right? Like, this is funny. That is how we started his lesson on how that is working.
Rotational motion, yeah.
Yeah, and like, that was, oh my God, 20 years ago. And I just remembered that.
Back in my day.
No, listen, I'm still waiting for the opportunity to build a bed of nails, to place myself upon it, to put a stack of bricks upon me, and to have one of my co-teachers break it with a sledgehammer. I'm still waiting for the opportunity. Nobody's taking me up on it yet. But just things that, like, you know, you want to make memories. You want to connect. I know you'll do it, Nate. And like, what the great thing about Nate doing it is, like, he's a man of the law. Like, I know, like, you know, if something goes wrong, there's no way it could in any way backfire upon me or my person.
Oh, so, I'd have you sign a waiver first. It'd be okay.
100%. Yeah, that would be my advice. Like, you have to engage them on some kind of level. Either the material engages them, you engage them on a personal level, and then they based on that personal engagement, you hook them in. They say, all right, well, I have to at least try. You make the material. I said the material person, and then I said, oh, you are engaged, and based on you being engaged, you just sort of like Pied Piper them in. Yeah, those are I guess a couple strategies, but again, it's really no one size fits all. Obviously, I have like personal skills, which makes me somewhat unique for a physics teacher. So there.
You just need to get that sick fade, remember?
I'm not. Yeah. My Hispanic students always want me to get the Hispanic haircut, and I'm like, I don't think I can pull that off. I don't think I can quite pull that off.
I think I think you could do it.
Don't get me wrong. Like, empanadas are awesome, but like I can't quite. I'll even wear chancletas. I don't care. But no, the fade ain't happening.
And wiser words have never been spoken, and you heard that on
Born to Be Wild.